passionate this morning, or passionate this afternoon on the East Coast, after seeing what's happening right now with our country. Looking forward to Easter, and T.S. Dixon, the conservative analyst and author, will join us to kind of hopefully set some of the records straight when it comes to his angelpaste.com. Use that RSBN promo code. That'll give you that percentage off of the Miracle Cream there and other products on that website. Great sponsor right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go to mypillowaswell.com. Free shipping when you use that RSBN promo code. Always good to save money. Always good to have great products. Always good to buy from a conservative company and someone that is the likes of Mike Lindell. Great person there. So mypillow.com/RSBN. More than 2,000 products available for you on that great website. Let's do this. Let's take a quick commercial break. I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Sil from. Don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.
To celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine.
Hello.
I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. That for a limited time, you can try our 3-pack
so we got two
absolutely free.
It'll like four y'all here.
Or check out our per kill bed sheets.
I mean,
can't believe I'm even going to say this.
Four.
Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com.
Norbert, if there ain't lit Thursday, you're all going to see a video that's going to prove you that Barack Obama has lied about the election with Trump.
Absolutely free. And our per kill bed sheets,
no, fucking
all sizes only $29.88.
You'll see.
Even the Queen's
we're going to watch this first.
Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
If we were to start early,
Welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. It is
one more like.
July 21st.
Got three. Need one more like.
There are no public appearances scheduled for President Trump today. However, of course, it could all change in an instant with the amount of news taking place this 24/7 news cycle. Of course, Monday, July 21st, on the heels of the first 6 months for Commander-in-Chief President Trump. And of course, we'll go over some of the accomplishments and the wins. We've heard about them. We know about them. But it's cool to see because I've read here probably 20 times. Interesting, I picked the number 20, but 20 core promises to the American people. I mean, this is something that I really latched onto, obviously, if you've been watching, but because I really think it's the playbook for a country to be made great again. Well, it's coming from President Trump and the RNC and the platform. Well, the White House earlier today, they released the 20 core promises made, promises kept list. We're going to go over that a little bit later. But at 1 o'clock, T.S. Dixon will join us. In the meantime, let's do a quick programming note. President Trump will travel to Scotland this Friday. He'll return to the States on Tuesday, July 29th. And then in September, the Commander-in-Chief will travel to England. That's September 17th to the 19th. Meantime, if you're just joining us right now, as you may know, President Trump is now 6 months and 1 day into his second term with 3.5 years to go. The president posted this on Truth Social yesterday. Wow, time flies. Today's a 6-month anniversary of my second term. Importantly, it's being hailed as one of the most consequential periods of any president. Let's just stop there for a second. Isn't that the truth? Right now, still, even though President Trump won in 2024, we were talking about the crossroads a lot before that election. That if we would go to the right, our country would be saved, our country would be made great again. We'd have all the campaign promises happen. Or if we went to the left, we know how bad and radical in that. I'm sensing that still to this day, that we still are at a crossroads. Even though President Trump's doing all the wins and the accomplishments, I think that we really need to take it to the next step in the ending of the weaponization against the people through Tulsi Gabbard at the DNI, the DOJ, the FBI. Stephen Miller saying that the people have to pay, the consequences on Truth Social, because if they don't, just like somebody said on Truth Social the other day, an everyday American said exactly what Carla Sands just said, what I've said, what a lot of people have said. If we don't take care of business in that level, then it could all turn just right around in the future. So I just think it would be a huge, great move if we continue on in that vein of, yes, all the accomplishments, yes, all the promises made, promises kept. But we know what President Trump went through. We know what you and I have gone through, at least most of us in this country. Who wants to have a concern that freedom of speech is getting infringed? Who wants to have a concern when you're at a stinking school board meeting talking about your kids not having to be forced to wear a mask? You know what I'm saying? I know I'm fired up today. How else can I be? I'm not a faker. That's the fake news' job. I'm not one of them. I really, really want to see our country be saved in the fullest extent. And I really believe that it's great to see things like these comments from Stephen Miller and others. Let's celebrate the 6 months. Trust me, we've been talking about them for the past 6 months every day. And maybe later in the broadcast, it'll be still. Really looking forward to all these wins to continue. So President Trump continuing on saying, in other words, we got a lot of good and great things done, including ending numerous wars of countries not related to us other than through trade and or, in certain cases, friendship. 6 months is not a long time to have totally revived a major country. 1 year ago, our country was dead, the president says, with almost no hope of revival. Today, the U.S.A. is the hottest and most respected country anywhere in the world. Happy anniversary. Let's go back to that White House video that they posted recently, because the White House specifically said President @Real Donald Trump took command, launched an all-out offensive to crush the left's mess and bring American power roaring back. The border is fortified. The economy is unleashed. The one big beautiful bill is law. This is unapologetic America First leadership. Take a look.
President Trump marking 6 months in the White House.
It is my honor to introduce to you the 45th and the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Donald Trump immediately getting to work with a remarkable show of the use of executive power.
We've never seen anything like this. There's 20,000 people cheering for every executive order signed.
President Trump comes in and immediately begins taking action to fix each and every one of these.
This ultimately is promises made, promises kept by the president.
This is a message to the rest of the world. The days of ripping off America and Americans are officially over.
The Trump archives are a series of near impossible feats.
We have the safest, most secure border in the history of this nation.
Border crossings have dropped so much that federal agents now outnumber illegal crossers.
He had a mandate and he's delivering on it. The American economy is better for it.
NASDAQ and S&P both hitting all-time highs.
Gas prices are down. Retail sales are up. $2 trillion in international financial agreement and record tariff revenue.
The U.S.A. is on a roll,
culminating
in the signing of the One Big Beautiful Bill on July 4th.
A bill for and by the people.
Thanks to this bill, Trump could resign tomorrow and still point to an enduring legacy.
And he's full steam ahead for America.
This movement that President Trump has started is only getting bigger. It has more energy, more enthusiasm.
What he's going to do is show up and work hard and deliver every day for the American people.
You're watching history, so buckle up, because the next 3.5 years will probably be just as busy.
That's right.
And thank there, one of us. One of those options is Right Side Broadcasting Network, of course,
well, good
as
morning,
it's now at 12:49, Monday, July 21st. Let's go to a couple sponsors, but also if you'd like to donate to Right Side, you can do so by going to the following there. You can text RSBN to 801-801 or rsbnetwork.com/donate. Also, as we grow and expand here at this network, if you'd like, there are some people that said, hey, I want to send a check or cash. Well, there's an address for that. There's a P.O. box. So it's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you guys so much for supporting Right Side Broadcasting Network. Also, a great sponsor here, allfamilypharmacy.com. If you've been frustrated with long pharmacy lines, insurance headaches, or just trying to get the medications you actually want, there's a better way. So All Family Pharmacy is changing how people get their medications. No insurance needed, no red tape, just fast, reliable care shipped straight to your door. So they carry the essentials like NAD+, methylene blue, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, and more than 200 more medications. So it's perfect for staying prepared, supporting your health, or building a well-stocked medicine cabinet with the treatments that matter. And guess what? Every order includes the doctor's prescription. So no extra steps, no hassle. It's simple, quality care from like-minded doctors and pharmacies who believe in one thing, making America healthy again. Of course, great pharmacists at this pharmacy right there. So allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, a great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's do this. We have a few minutes before the conservative analyst and author T.S. Dixon joins us. He joined us last week, really breaking down a number of things he was seeing when it comes to a number of topics. I know it's a very general tease, but stick around. I'm sure he'll say some great things once again here on the network. In the
main thing I want to show you guys
let's
here,
look at the latest press release from the White House. The White House just released
do you guys want to continue to watch this here, or do you guys want to go to the main one?
Some more. So let's look at some more. How about this part?
Please let me know.
President Trump has successfully forced hospitals nationwide to abandon the so-called gender-affirming care and chemical castration program for kids, defunded biased PBS and NPR. Thank God our money's not going to that left-wing junk. And when I say junk, I mean the narrative, the false, stuff that they spew out of those two places, or they did at least. Hopefully they'll stop. Ended woke DEI programming across higher education and corporate America. Also weeded our official language, and so much more. So, we've read those 20 core promises a lot here at Right Side. I mean, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Okay, number one, there's a list of information there that you can actually see if you want to go to Carolyn Levitt's page on X and other places to see more specifically all of the paragraphs about each of these. But I'm going to gloss over at least the numbers here and share what the White House is saying, generally speaking here. So number one, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. What more is there to say? We've seen that happen, thank God. Carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. That is happening also. Thank God for these things happening. End inflation and make America affordable again. How about number four? Make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far. How about number five? Stop outsourcing and turn the United States into a manufacturing superpower. So let's look at that one. The promise is kept there. As President Trump pursues his bold commitment to an America First trade agenda, scores of companies have announced trillions of dollars in new investment as they onshore workers from foreign countries and create tens of thousands of new American jobs, positioning the United States as the dominant player for the jobs of the future. Let's go to number six, large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. You're seeing that. Promise made, promise kept there. Defend our including the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. So this one here, protecting religious freedoms, safeguarding Second Amendment rights, and has directed his administration to take all necessary steps to defend Americans' constitutional rights from overreach. We'll stop there. Those are 7 out of 20. There's obviously more to go, but I'm going to keep going. The reason I'm going to keep going is because this is directly from the White House to all of media out there, and I believe that only a few media outlets on the conservative side will read and share this. What I'm saying is all of conservative media, of course, will talk about it. The mainstream media, no, they'll look at this. They'll say something like number 8, prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and in the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country. How are you going to argue with that? That's what President Trump's doing, a promise made, promise kept. End the weaponization of government against the American people. Biden has worked to persecute political dissidents. This is a quote from President Trump, including conservatives, Catholics, and other Christians, and opponents of his weaponized state. This abuse will be rectified, and it will be rectified very quickly. So promises kept on that. President Trump
are you still there?
Elements from the DOJ and FBI pardoned pro-life Americans wrongly targeted by the Biden administration, and launched full-scale investigations into deep state abuses, bringing the era of weaponized government to an end and restoring fairness and trust in American institutions. Okay, so we look at that one. We're seeing the investigation. We're seeing the receipts from the DNI, so the National Intelligence in regards to 2016 and Obama and all that. We'll get into more of that in a minute. And there's other deep state actors that have did things that have broken.
There's so much thing going these days.
Legal scholars and all of that. Not against President Trump, but against us. I also added this into
all this stuff's very important, but
outside of number 9, we're here.
I know that Thursday I'll be looking at my
people I know want this promise to be carried out to the level of prosecution.
All right, I'm just gonna play it because there's so much going on now. There is. I don't know if the weather is gonna be nice or hot later. I have no clue. So it would be nice if the weather was not gonna be hot. But I don't know if it's gonna rain today. I have no clue. Hey, oh. No, I don't want that one there. Hold on there, but we're getting this thing played here. Taking their time to play. Come on. This is the one that I really want to play. Come on. Where is it at?
I only need...
Yeah, come on. Don't tell
the
me.
Deal that attempted to overthrow a...
Oh, knock it off.
elected president, subvert the will of the American voter, and overthrow the American government.
Hold on, what
this is the true story of insurrection.
Sorry about that. It wasn't there before. Certain things I gotta go a certain way. Looks like. Let's try this way. Come on, why is it not? Anybody here? Like, nobody's really talking. Yeah, is this doing this now?
To be criminal charges. I believe that we are going to see people testify in front of Congress. This is just getting started, so don't hold your breath because it's going to take a while. But I believe that this is the one. We are going to see arrests. So I ask for your patience as I go through this, and as the Trump administration cleans house. Let me go ahead and show you what was presented on Fox News last night about this situation.
Fox News alert, we just got a peek inside Obama's black book, and it turns out Barack knew the Russia hoax was a hoax all along, but pushed it anyway to sabotage the Trump presidency. He and I, Tulsi Gabbard, declassifying pages and pages of documents, showing Obama's intel guys briefed him just weeks after the 2016 election that the Russians didn't actually sway the election. Quote, we assessed that Russian and criminal actors did not impact the recent U.S. election results. Criminal activity also failed to reach the scale and sophistication necessary to change election outcomes. But Obama just couldn't accept that. So he and his staff instructed intel agencies to cook up new reports to support Russia collusion. Quote, after the meetings, Clapper's executive assistant emailed intelligence community leaders, tasking them to create a new intelligence community assessment per the president's request that detailed the tools Moscow used and actions it took to influence the 2016 election. Tulsi Gabbard described what she found as a conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people. And she says the people involved should be prosecuted and has made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. We knew Hillary created the dossier, and now we have proof that Barack was calling the shots.
Okay, so all this time, I believed it was Hillary Clinton trying to cover up for all the uranium that she had given to Russia. She was humiliated by losing the election to Donald Trump when James Comey, a week before the election, said, we're reopening the investigation on Hillary as a way to make the FBI look credible, and it absolutely destroyed her. And Donald J. Trump ended up winning the election. Now, this goes really, really deep. So I want to go into this. Award-winning journalist, Catherine Herridge, she started digging in on this and showing that it looks like Susan Rice, who worked for Obama, on January 20th, she emailed herself this classified email where she basically said that Obama began the conversation about looking into Trump and the Russia collusion, and that the intelligence agencies should absolutely pursue this and go after Trump, but that they should do it by the book. Why would he need to say, do it by the book? So this is new information that is coming out, and it is leading right to Obama. Now, on December 8th, a presidential briefing went out that Russia had not rigged the election or even influenced the election in any way, and Obama didn't like that. So he ordered the intelligence agencies to pursue Trump and this fake story with the full weight of U.S. intelligence as if Russia did rig the election. So and Obama, because he's coming in as the new president, it's the exact presidential daily briefing, except for they didn't want him to see this. So then they went over to Trump Tower to meet with him. And that's when they slipped in the dossier, the fact that Russia had rigged the election. By December 9th, everybody was in hot pursuit to remove Donald Trump. Let me go ahead and pull up what Steve Bannon and Jack Posobiec had to say about this, because their insight is really, really informative. Let me bring this to the stage and we'll watch it together.
We can zoom out a little bit here. I'm in this. I'm seeing these emails though. It pushing back the president's daily brief. I've never seen anything like this certainly not in the Obama admin, saying that they withheld the president's daily brief so that they could set this up with this assessment in it as the one that's put. Because the PDB, it doesn't just go to the president. That's what everyone has to understand. It goes to senior members of the government. It goes to senior members of the military. It goes throughout the IC. There are various versions of it that can be read. The president's version, of course, is the most highly classified. And then if you go dig deeper into it, you can get into other levels of compartmentalization, because the president's the one, he's supposed to be able to see everything that's in there. They withheld the PDB so that they could set this up this way. And by
hang on,
asking,
here's the I'm going to give you a scoop. This is what we got the president, because the President Daley's brief is given to the president-elect. None of this, when CNN reported they were going to ship the 73, we said, hang on. Where did it come from? We called the chief of staff. This is why the meeting that took place, I'll explain this more later. This is why the meeting that took place on the 3rd, to explain it, where they slipped in at the end the dossier in a brown paper envelope and gave it to BuzzFeed, Ben Smith and that team, I think, BuzzFeed, that afternoon. That's where that all came from. They didn't do the president's daily briefing because they knew we got the president-elect gets the same briefing that the president of the United States in transition. Okay. They withheld it. This is how duplicitous they are. This is how guilty they are. Ben Rhodes, Obama, all of them are going to rot in a frickin' prison. And this is why we got to get on top of this. This is the deep state. This is the coup against Trump. You can see it all right there. Jack, how are people going to get their arms around this? How do we propose to do this? Because
Step 1 was the fires. Step 2 was the riots. Step 3, bombs in the Middle East. And step 4, prophecy said.
Okay, so this is really big. So they purposely withhold something that is Trump's right to receive. They then start the mainstream media machine spinning out the lies before Trump even has an opportunity to understand what's going on. And by December 9th, they are starting what would take 1 year of a coup and order over $40 million of fake investigations. So as they just said, what are we going to do? How are people going to wrap their minds around the fact that Obama and others are most likely going to jail?
There's a lot here.
And that's right. When you go back in the time frame, the PDB would be given to the president-elect. And that, of course, at the time was President Trump. So they made sure to withdraw the original ICA before President Trump could, and his team could get a copy of it, so that they could only see the revised one. That's why they held this from they were holding it back from Obama. They were making sure that Trump wouldn't have access to it. Look, you are going to see on this, I certainly expect to see hearings. I certainly expect to see people to be able to dig down on this. But
I don't want to hear.
You're going to see prosecution.
I don't want to hear it. I want a criminal grand jury. I want a criminal grand jury. Guys, perp walked.
Amen.
Forget hearing.
How do you not see prosecution?
Forget it. Prosecutions. This is this is why they do special prosecutions.
There's perjury here. There's conspiracy to commit perjury. There's obstruction.
This is treason. Yep. They tried to thwart an election. They tried to overturn a government. This is treason. This is why I need Judge Jeanine or Ed Martin or get one of these U.S. attorneys. Somebody needs to take this on full time.
So they tried to rig the election. Keep that in mind. They then commit treason to overthrow the government through these lies. So this is really big. And I know that there's going to be a lot of pushback. I hope that the Republicans and the Department of Justice will have the courage to do what is right. So then the machine starts, right? And then Congress starts pulling in the top people in intelligence, Clapper, John Brennan, FBI Director James Comey, because they want to better understand how Russia rigged the election. But now we know they did not. So these people have lied to Congress. They've lied to all of us. Let me just remind you of some of the lies that they were spreading about President Trump. And let's go ahead and watch this together. This is James Comey, former head of the FBI.
There should be no fuzz on this whatsoever. The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle. They did it with purpose. They did it with sophistication. They did it with overwhelming technical efforts. And it was an active measures campaign driven from the top of that government. There is no fuzz on that. It is a high confidence judgment of the entire intelligence community. And the members of this committee have seen the intelligence. It's not a close. So refreshing to see a bipartisan focus on that, because this is about America, not about any particular party.
So that was a hostile act by the Russian government against this country.
Yes, sir.
In that time frame, there were more than the DNC and the DCCC that were targets.
Correct. There was a massive effort to target government and non-governmental, near-governmental agencies like nonprofits.
What would be the estimate of how many entities out there the Russians specifically targeted in that time frame?
It's hundreds. I suppose it could be more than 1,000, but it's at least hundreds.
This is all lies, all of it. None of that happened. He's literally just diarrhea flowing out of his mouth, just lie after lie after lie, in order to push forward this narrative that Russia hijacked our elections. I mean, these are lies. People need to be going to jail. This could have started World War III. Like, imagine if we had launched a war against Russia for influencing our election. Now, keep in mind that they couldn't rig the 2016 election. They actually threw it away from Hillary Clinton on accident. So they had to step in with these massive lies. But they will have the Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back. They start coming in with all of these lies. And Obama himself gives us the pattern for how to do this. I'm going to pull this up on the screen and we'll watch it together. You can see exactly how these lies are spread. This is from misinformation against people in order to get the outcome that you want.
Flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing.
Isn't this exactly what he was doing? And then he used the intelligence agencies and the mainstream media to carry out the remainder. They carried the water of his lies.
That citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth.
This is what they did, right? Adam Schiff would come out every single day. If you guys knew the stuff that I was learning, I can't tell you because it's all classified. Or the mainstream media every single day, CNN, watching Robert Mueller walk down with his briefcase. Today is the day that we will get Donald Trump.
You must be rich. Haven't claimed your $25,000 burial benefit that's given your...
Today is the day that we will get Donald Trump. To do is flood the mainstream media and the world with enough lies that people will believe it. And that's exactly what happens. Sadly, I fell for some of this. I'm embarrassed to admit that, but I did, and now I'm doing everything I can to help spread the truth. So, here's what happened. They then tried to rig the 2020 election. But during the 2020 election, Donald Trump thought he was going to win. He thought that he had them, and he told us, I'm going to play this and remind you why he believed that we were going to get justice because he believed he was on track to beat Joe Biden, and he was. But listen to what President Trump had to say on the debate stage.
Because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition.
Okay, so there's President Trump in 2020 saying we've got years ago, except they rigged the election so that the DOJ would be led. Even though he had yogurt for brains, they would use him to allow them to do whatever they wanted to cover up their tracks, cover up the Hillary story, cover up the Barack Obama incident. So this is really, really damning. Now, Steve Bannon and Jack Posobiec, they correctly point out intelligence is supposed to be used to inform the president and keep America safe. Instead, Obama turned it on the president and turned it on the American people. Let me pull this up to the stage and we will go ahead and watch this together. It's really, really brilliant the way that they break all of this down.
Obama administration's conspiracy to subvert President Trump's 2016 victory and presidency, Washington, D.C. Today's date, Friday. This is from the Director of National Intelligence. Tulsi Gabbard revealed overwhelming evidence that demonstrates how, after President Trump won the 2016 election against Hillary Clinton, President Obama and his national security cabinet members manufactured and politicized intelligence to lay the groundwork for what was essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. This is from the Director of National Intelligence, that language. And also she puts in the tweet top, their goal was to usurp President Trump and subvert the will of the American people. No matter how powerful, every person involved in this conspiracy must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The integrity of our...
Did you hear that? The recommendation from the head of the intelligence agencies is that this should be investigated and that there should be criminal charges and prosecution.
Democratic Republic depends on it. We are turning over all documents to the Department of Justice for criminal referral. Jack Posobiec, this is what, to Caroline Wren's point, Durham did not have this information, correct? And Tulsi Gabbard, have you ever heard language like this from a Director of National Intelligence or any senior intelligence official, sir?
Man, the left
Steve, I've never heard in language like this because I've never seen anything like this before in all these years, using intelligence channels and intelligence programs to actually act and to actively go after a U.S. Politician who's going to be the next president of the United States. So the person that is now your successor, you're directing it. And it says over and over in these documents, and you could see it and it's so smart what DNI Gabbard has done here because she's released all of it. So she says it, she's got the press release, she has the executive summary as much as possible. And it says very clearly, per the direction of the President of the United States. So per the direction of Barack Obama, following this meeting, you are now to create this new assessment. And Steve, by the way, we've got emails in here. I'm just going through it, but you can. This is the technology cyber intel unit, these cyber intelligence officials at the FBI coming up and responding to Clapper's team and saying, wait a minute, listen to this. We would prefer the first sentence regarding Russia's intent to be softened. The way it currently reads, it would indicate we have definite information that Russia does intend to disrupt our elections, and we are uncomfortable making that assessment. That's from the FBI in 2016, but that's below the level. That's the actual intelligence analysts, way below the Comey level, way below Clapper and Brennan over at DNI, previous DNI and previous CIA, where the people who are actually doing the work says, wait, we don't have the evidence. We don't have the evidence to back this up, and you are directing us to make this requirement. We don't feel comfortable doing it, and they did it anyway. And we know later that Brennan went and hand-selected the people that would put together this completely fake assessment, and he led the entire. He could have started World War III with this.
Yeah.
That's what I said. They wanted to start World War III over this.
Have you heard? Reading glasses are outdated. A new technology for the elderly. Nothing less is here. From now on, you
agree with this.
That's what I said.
To dig deep and bring you guys the very best information that I can, but this is just the beginning. And I don't believe that they would have released this damning information if they weren't prepared to cross the Rubicon and do what needs to be done. So I don't think this is going to be a quick process, but I do believe it's going to end in people in jail, in restoring the confidence of our elections, the confidence of our voted in leaders. This looks really bad for Barack Obama, James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, others. More information is going to come out. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about this? This is absolutely massive. I believe this is one reason why the Democrats keep trying to leak out all this Jeffrey Epstein stuff, is they started going, wait a minute, why hasn't Tulsi Gabbard been in any meetings for the last month or so? It's because she had her head down, going to work, figuring out, putting the spider webs together to show that Obama and Clinton and the FBI, unbelievable, absolutely crazy. Stephen Miller calls the exposed Russiagate hoax a seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government and democracy of the United States. Obama and his cronies must be charged with sedition and treason. Even Tulsi Gabbard said on 2 different occasions that this is absolute treason. That's what it is. That's how this should be treated. All right, let me leave you with one last piece of good news. All on his own, telling the truth, having good policies, President Donald J. Trump is now more popular than Barack Hussein Obama and George W. Bush at this point in their second presidential term. A stunning blow to the narrative that Trump is hemorrhaging supporters. Let me know in the comments, do you still support Donald Trump? We need to check ourselves against this new information. If you started to doubt him, look, he was telling the truth. It took almost 10 years to vindicate him. Now it's time for arrests. It's time for perp walks. It's time to see people in the orange jumpsuits. They did it to Trump. They did it to Trump's advisors. It's now time to do it to them because they actually committed crimes.
Yes, they did.
All right, if you found value in this information video, please. What's really going on in Washington, D.C., and the truth about President Donald J. Trump and our government, hit that subscribe button. We're almost to 2 million amazing truth seekers. I love you guys. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you on the next video.
They're mad. They're so mad right now. All right, next on the Thurs. Here we go. Just watch it, the Thurs.
You a caddy? No, I'm a Doug, and that's a limo. Okay, I'm gonna putt now. Okay, I'm gonna watch you putt.
Oh, look at it skip there. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. There you go. Oh, boy.
Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, says new information is on its way regarding the declassified documents that show the Obama administration manufactured intelligence to create the 2016 Russian election interference narrative.
So here we go. Doug Luzader joins us now from D.C. with the latest. Doug.
Here we go. Good morning. The Director of National Intelligence calls this a treasonous conspiracy. Some Democrats call the allegations baseless. DNI Tulsi Gabbard declassified documents and released them on Friday, showing, she says, that President Obama and other administration officials tried to shift the Russian election interference narrative after the election.
Oh, the lictors.
We are referring all of our documents to the Department of Justice for the purpose of accountability and action. No one, no matter who they are, no matter how high up they are, or how powerful they may be, no matter who the intelligence officials or professionals were who were a part of this treasonous conspiracy, there must be accountability.
And critics say Gabbard is conflating two issues, whether Russia tried to directly interfere with vote counts and whether they were trying to influence the U.S. election.
Next week, we will be releasing more detailed information about how exactly this took place and the extent was sought to be hidden from the American people, hidden from officials who would be in a position to do something about it.
All right, back in 2017, former FBI Director James Comey said this.
Listen.
No fuzz on this whatsoever. The Russians interfered in our election during the 2016 cycle. They did it with purpose. They did it with sophistication. They did it with overwhelming technical efforts.
We will no doubt hear much more about this in the days ahead, with Gabbard saying that the Russian narrative was what she calls a manufactured piece of intelligence.
Do not let them increase your home insurance rates. I used to feel powerless, watching my premiums rise every year.
Watch it. Here comes, here comes, here comes.
Ooh, baby. Who is ready for a very, very spicy Monday today? July 24th, 2025. And now you understand, ladies and gentlemen, what President Trump has been talking about. Yep. For the last few years. You understand everything. It's all coming together, and it's very exciting to see it happening before our very eyes. Will we finally witness true accountability in our time? Something that we have been calling for on this program for literal years of our lives until our voices cracked. This is the moment. And we are locked in today with a super show featuring Julie Kelly, Mike Davis, General Flynn, and David Schoen. David Schoen, President Trump's attorney during his impeachment trials. So many brilliant minds that have defended our president against what we are going to uncover today in a massive deep dive. The true evils of the deep state, an actual insurrection that in fact took place on January 6th. But January, there was an insurrection, there was a coup, there was a seditious conspiracy, and we caught him. We caught him dead to rights. Now the trap has snapped. Trump posting videos of Barack Obama getting arrested while he grins in the White House.
Oh, yeah.
Sign of things to come, we'll see, ladies and gentlemen. As Tulsi Gabbard shatters the internet and political world as we know it by releasing the documents that expose the crimes of the deep state once and for all. And I believe we finally have got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see if Pam Bondi at the Department of Justice can reel it in. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. If you're smarter than our deep state, then you'll want to keep the things that are precious to you hidden. The deep state didn't do a great job of covering up their tracks. You should use Bunker in order to protect the things that are precious to you, like wedding photos, baby pictures, special memories, financial information, IDs, birth certificates, and passports, tax documents, wills, trusts, and insurance. Bunker can lock it all down for you. Bunker is created by cybercrime experts who have 25 years of experience in ensuring that you will never have a breach of your personal data. They've caught some of the worst criminals on earth, cyber criminals who steal your information. And ladies and gentlemen, now they're wanting to share their system with you. The Bunker Family Plan has a private messenger. You can share messages, photos, and files with your spouse, children, connecting only with people who you approve.
That's why I'm
Bunker, B-U-N-K-R,
my job
is where you should go. Bunker.life/Benny. Their website URL, bunker.life/Benny. Use the code Benny for 25% off your family plan today. BUNKR.life/Benny. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a monster breakdown, of course, launched by Tulsi Gabbard, who is one of the single bravest public servants I've ever seen. I don't even use the word public servant, but Tulsi Gabbard deserves it. Tulsi Gabbard deserves our faith and support. She engaged in the single bravest act I have seen in my lifetime in Washington, D.C., and I've been covering this stuff for over 20 years. I'm very interested in politics since a young man. Maybe you've been around longer than me, but I can tell you that I've done an extensive historical accounting of the actions taken by people in the position of Director of National Intelligence. Nothing even comes close to what Tulsi did on Friday afternoon after our show. When we were all getting ready to pack up and go home, Tulsi drops this thread on X. And this thread is...
I have a job, okay? I don't sit around like you do.
Historically important because it's the first time
I have to explain everything I do.
that the deep state has come forward with proof of their own crimes. Because Tulsi, by every weight and measure, represents the beating black heart of the deep state. Let me explain that. Tulsi is in charge of 17 different intelligence agencies. She's the head of all of them. She's in charge of the CIA. All of those dark organs, and she's able to pluck the string and pull the threads and is able to see everything. And she's used her role muscularly over the last 6 months in order to create this manifesto. Don't miss it, ladies and gentlemen. Tulsi Gabbard, in her first salvo here, calls President Obama a traitor.
Illinois homeowners, I want to buy your house right now, as is, no matter what condition it's in. And not only do I want to buy your house,
calls President Obama a traitor. Now, that's not Tulsi Gabbard, who ran for president and joined with President Trump on stage and decided to endorse President Trump as a Democrat, switch her party. This is the Director of National Intelligence saying that a seditious conspiracy, a traitorous cabal of bad actors usurped the will of the American people and engaged in crimes to take down the presidency of Donald Trump. This is in, of course, the year 2016 and 2017. It all happened on January 6th, ironically. This is too good. We're going to break it all down for you right here before we get to our incredible slate of guests. Ladies and gentlemen, the guests who will be joining us today, some of them were targets of this cabal. Some of them had their lives destroyed, like General Flynn. Others, like Mike Davis, who will be joining us shortly, has simply been fighting this and has been telling this audience for years what was actually happening with the Mar-a-Lago raid. The Mar-a-Lago raid was actually about these documents. Oh yeah, baby. Let's cook. Here we go. Their goal was to usurp President Trump and subvert the will of the American people.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tulsi Gabbard breaking it all down. Here we go. Tulsi Gabbard's report has, of course, broken the internet into. Hold on, let me just grab the right thread. There we go. Yeah, that's the initial. This is the initial, and then this is the breakdown. No matter how powerful, every person involved in this conspiracy must be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The integrity of our democratic republic depends on it. We are turning over all documents to DOJ for criminal referral, says Tulsi Gabbard. So I'm going to cut everyone off of the pass. I'm going to cut the comment section off of the pass and say this. We're not here to cheerlead. We're not here for copium. We've used an enormous amount of energy on this program in order to rail against guys like Paul Ryan. Okay? And every time we get a chance to, we'll drag that man. Because that's a perfect example of a cucked, limp dick Republican who comes out and like promises the base something and then cowers and runs away. The example that we use is Paul Ryan going out of the border to squee and tell us he's going to build Trump's wall. This happened in 2017. Of course, Paul Ryan didn't even put up wall funding on the House. Well, he controlled the House of Representatives. Wanted, and he didn't even bring the funding bill. He didn't even bring a bill to the floor to fund the wall. Complete and total fraud. We've been lied and suckered and had the football pulled from us too many times. Linus, Lucy, Charlie Brown. We're done with those games. We need actual legitimate prosecutions now, and they need to happen immediately. Tulsi Gabbard saying, I hear you, and it's going to happen. The DOJ has all of the evidence. Here's what they have. Their goal was to usurp President Trump. America is finally learning the truth about 2016 intelligence was politicized and weaponized and by the most powerful people in the Obama administration to lay the groundwork for what is essentially a years-long coup against President Trump, subverting the will of the American people and undermining our democratic republic. Here's how. And she shares this spectacular graphic, but let's break it all down into the bones, okay? In the bones, and we'll have on experts talk through this because they've been fighting this for their entire professional lives over the last 10 years. In its bones, here's what this graphic means. The intelligence agencies went to Obama and said Russia didn't do jack shit during the 2016 election. Sorry for my language. There's nothing. There's nothing there. Russia didn't hack our elections. Trump won, and he won walking away.
Yep.
Obama said, not good enough. Bring me something else. I want a report that shows that Russia did hack our election so that we can smear, slander, launch impeachments, and launch investigations against my successor here, Donald Trump. I'm not going to allow any of us to leave office until we have planted a poison pill that will destroy and kill the Trump presidency. I remember a chat a long time ago with Trump's top advisor, still working for him today, and the chat was off the record, so let me just frame it for you here.
Yep.
And everybody will tell you this from the first Trump administration. The Russia collusion hoax destroyed the first Trump administration, destroyed all of its potential, stole all of its energy. Everyone was constantly under investigation. Every person who worked for President Trump assumed that their lives would be destroyed, that they'd all end up like General Flynn, who will be on our show in just a moment. It kneecapped and killed in the cradle anything they could have possibly done. It stole from you everything that we were supposed to accomplish. The devastation and breakdown of this
commercial.
This coup attempt, this seditious conspiracy, cannot be overstated. It was utterly destructive. It wasn't something cute. It wasn't like a couple jokes. It wasn't like a couple of CNN segments. It literally destroyed the will of the American people. Trump did not have the presidency he was supposed to have, and all of its energy, the vast majority of the energy, was poured into this. Why didn't we close down? Why isn't the border closed forever?
Why did so many major accomplishments not happen in the first Trump administration? I think he had a good run in the first term. Why is this term so different? Because this didn't exist. This doesn't exist anymore. But cannot be overstated how devastating this was to the president. For months, predicting the 2016 election, the intelligence community shared a consensus view that Russia lacked any intent or capacity to rig our elections. But weeks after President Trump's historic 2016 victory, defeating Hillary Clinton, everything changed. On December 8th, 2016, intelligence community officials prepared an assessment for the president's daily brief, finding that Russia did not impact recent U.S. election results by conducting cyber attacks on infrastructure. Before it could reach the president, it was abruptly pulled based on new guidance. The intelligence assessment was never published. The next day, top security officials gathered at the Obama White House to discuss Russia. Obama directed the intelligence community to create a new assessment that detailed immediately leaned on their allies in the media to advance their falsehoods. Anonymous intelligence community sources leaked classified information to the Washington Post and others that Russia had intervened and hacked the election in Trump's favor. You remember those reports. On January 6th, 2017, the true insurrection day, days before President Trump took his oath on the Bible, DNI Clapper unveiled the Obama-directed politicized assessment, a gross weaponization of the intelligence community that laid the groundwork for a years-long coup intended to subvert President Trump's entire presidency. According to whistleblower emails shared with us today, we know that Clapper Brennan used this baseless, discredited Steele dossier as a source to push the false narratives. These documents detail treasonous conspiracy by officials, there it is, treasonous conspiracy, by officials, the highest levels of the Obama White House to subvert the will of the American people and usurp the president from fulfilling his mandate. This betrayal concerns every American. The integrity of our democratic republic demands that every person involved be investigated and brought to justice. To prevent this from ever happening again, I'm providing all these documents to the Department of Justice to deliver accountability to President Trump and his family that American people deserve. So that's the core of the report. Let's dive a little deeper, shall we? Catherine Herridge, who's done excellent reporting on this, will take you through the source documents here. There are at least 4 tracks of Russia collusion story. Context. There are at least 4 tracks to the Russia collusion. Just such an excellent reporter on this kind of stuff. Remember, Catherine Herridge was at CBS News. She was fired for asking too many questions about Russiagate. She was fired from CBS for asking too many questions about Hunter Biden's laptop. Newly declassified DNI Tulsi Gabbard documents alleging intel manipulation, use of the Steele dossier to secure FISA surveillance warrant, unmasking scandal targeting General Flynn, predicate that opened the FBI's 2016 counterintelligence probe Crossfire Hurricane. Re-upping masking documents I first reported on in 2020. As you can see, the same names keep resurfacing. Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Lisa Monaco. You can see him here, ladies and gentlemen. Oh boy, and Joe Biden was part of it too. This is a monster break. And for this reason, let's click through the source tweet here from Catherine Herridge. Newly declassified records from DNI Tulsi Gabbard, compelling evidence that the 2016 Russia collusion narratives was not rooted in credible intelligence reporting, but manufactured to fit a political narrative. It all really boils down to the president's daily brief, and that's where they're getting this information. Let's talk about the PDB, as it's called. President's daily brief is, of course, the president learning everything that is going on in the world. A lot of this is classified, the vast majority of it. It's delivered every single day, and the president gets a breakdown of where their professional take on very important issues. It is the opposite of fake news. It needs to be rigorous, and you have to have a president that is informed of what is actually happening in the world. It can't be deep state subterfuge. It can't be a psyop. Then, of course, the country will burn. It has to be real. The manipulation of the president's daily brief for political purposes would be a very grave sin.
to the intel community. Maybe that's why there are whistleblowers coming forward right now. We'll get to that in just a second. This highly classified report, which is the Daily's national security analysis for the president, assessed Russian and criminal actors did not impact recent U.S. elections. They have it. We have the documents. Here's the document. Please. But after pushback from the FBI, then led by James Comey, the president's daily brief was spiked based on new guidance. Show the document, please. After the White House principal, Klein is at the bottom of the tweet. After the White House principal's meeting, new intelligence assessment was commissioned and media in the 2016 election to help Donald Trump win the presidency and undermine the confidence of the system. What you're seeing on screen is the unmasked, declassified, which is insane. I don't think you've ever seen, there's never been a declassified president's daily brief. The fact that the Trump administration is doing this is the height of transparency. And I've, of course, never seen the deep state tell on itself, like expose its own crimes. It's remarkable. What we are living through is remarkable. This is remarkable. What you're looking at is the December 8th, 2016 President's Daily Brief, stating explicitly Russia did not impact U.S. elections. Hours later, the FBI withdraws its support and they kill the President's Daily Brief based on new guidance. What did we learn? That Barack Obama was in charge of that guidance. That Barack Obama pushed personally to have Clapper Brennan, Susan Rice, and Andy McCabe and others concoct the Russia conspiracy theory and then to manipulate, to poison his President's Daily Brief in order to show that fraud. He commissioned a new intelligence assessment.
If you've had kidney cancer, liver cancer, or ulcerative colitis, those cancers are possible.
So that he could destroy his political enemy. We've never seen anything so evil. Margot Cleveland here, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking it down, and here's further documents. Comey's fingerprints are all over this mess again. Comey was the first that Barack Obama went to. That'll be important later. But you can see here in the documents, it was first the FBI that said, no, we got to stop this. It was James Comey. Obama went to James Comey and said, you have to kill this. We have to launch something that destroys.
Yeah.
And remember, importantly, James Comey is the one who whitewashed Hillary Clinton in this election. James Comey was the one who pushed the FISA
Yes, you did.
warrant, where he lied to the FISA court. James Comey is the one who lied relentlessly before the Senate, before the House, on media. We have a supercut of it. We don't have time to play it right now. James Comey has lied about this and manipulated intelligence in order to attack General Flynn, for instance. ALX, you got to grab me that clip of him talking about Flynn. I got to get that in the show when the general joins. Obama is behind it all, ordering the assessment before Trump's in office. You can see Obama's urgency.
That is that real Make America.
Remember these leaks? You remember the wrap-up smear?
You only made your tail 3 minutes ago.
What are we talking about? We don't even got to play
fake.
it. Remember, in a moment of absolute drunkenness or senility, I'm not exactly sure, Nancy Pelosi broke it down. You make up, she breaks down exactly how this operation is going to go. You make up something to smear Donald Trump. You leak it to the press. That's called merchandising it. And then you say, well, the press reported it. This is exactly what they did with Michael Isikoff at Yahoo News. It's precisely what they did with the original reporters who leaked the Russiagate story and the Steele dossier.
It says you made your channel 3 minutes ago.
Leaks to Post included fake claims that formed the false narrative that Brennan later inserted into this into the report, Intel Community Report, that Russia interfered to help Trump. Whistleblower reveals he was sidelined when he objected to the findings. Whistleblowers, according to Tulsi Gabbard, are now coming forward and explaining exactly what happened here. Tulsi Gabbard says, get ready, we're just getting started. The intel community assessment not only affirmatively, but falsely suppressed. So everybody in the intel community is like, what the hell, what the F is going on? What the literal F is going on here? We said Russia didn't interfere, and you're saying he did just in time for President Trump to get into office. Whoa, Clapper privately. No! That was based on Russian spies. Russia did interfere in the election. They interfered on behalf of Hillary Clinton. We know this because, obviously, Ian Dranchenko and
This new Special Forces device turns men into beasts. It burns calories on autopilot by emulating 10,000 crunches in 10 minutes, melting belly fat without rigorous diets or length.
The reports. Not the her report. What? I'm getting my ALX. What's the other? Help me out, ALX. What's the report on Russia collusion that did nothing? Did absolutely nothing and got nobody put in prison. Durham report. Thank you. 5 years of Durham report, and we got none of this. It's really a great question.
Do you really think I'm that
the Durham report
that I'm gonna X them out?
Why the hell didn't you expose any of this?
YouTube said you opened your channel.
Where was it?
Ago.
We know that Hillary Clinton put together a Steele dossier based on Russian spies. Where did Christopher Steele have his sources? Russia. What were the Russian sources? Fake. What was the intention of the Steele?
Get a little warm right now. Come on.
Clinton. According to the Durham report. Stupid Durham. I haven't talked about him in so long. What a fraud, that guy. All of this was just sitting there and none of it made it into his report. None of it. None of it. We could have learned this. When did the Durham report get released? When did it get released? We could have learned about this years ago. But instead, President Trump has to take a bullet to the head for us to get to this moment. Yeah. 400 pages long, the Durham report. 400 pages long. 2023? That bastard. And nothing. None of it made it in there. It really makes you wonder. Really makes you wonder.
More than 3 minutes ago.
President Trump has to get raided. He has to get a bullet to the head. He has to get indicted 400 times. Wild. So the breakdown is here. The documents are there. And Tulsi Gabbard states definitively that we are going to get more, ladies and gentlemen. Tulsi Gabbard cannot fathom. There it is. Let's talk about the John Durham thing. Wait, I haven't thought about that bastard in such a long time. It makes me so angry. Here's a great headline. Tulsi Gabbard cannot fathom how John Durham missed all of the evidence in the years-long coup against Trump. Incredible. There's one man who wasn't missing it, ladies and gentlemen. One man who refused to miss it and who came on this show and made a lot of news and made a lot of enemies, frankly.
Yeah.
By speaking the truth to this audience, by telling us what was happening during the Mar-a-Lago raid, by explaining the through line here, and never letting this bone go.
Come on,
An absolute bulldog. Ladies and gentlemen, his name's Mike Davis at the Article 3 Project, and he joins the show live now. These people are complete and total frauds. Are they completely and totally effed? Mike Davis, the floor is yours.
Yes. And as we've been saying for 3 years on your show and just about every other of the more than 4,500 media hits I've done over the last 3 years supporting defending President Trump, this is a criminal conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.A. Section 241. When you politicize and weaponize intel agencies and law enforcement to go after your political enemies for non-crimes, that is textbook conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. So I would say to these Obama and Biden Democrats, including President Obama himself, President Biden himself, and all these other people who participated and helps cover up this ongoing criminal conspiracy against rights, I would say to them, lawyer up, because justice is definitely coming, as I've promised, and I'm going to make damn sure happens.
Can you explain what the statute of limitations is here, Mike? Is there any worming, snake slithering, wiggle that they're going to be able to hide under a rock? Over.
Yeah, remember this, back in 2016, you had President Obama and then Vice President Joe Biden and Clapper and Comey and Brennan and so many other goons make up the Russian collusion hoax. They worked with the Hillary's campaign, the DNC, the Steele dossier. You had Perkins Coie law firm. You made up the Steele dossier. You made up the Russian collusion hoax. You said you were lying. Were colluding with the Russians to steal the 2016 election. You fed this to the FISA court as bogus evidence, so you lied to the FISA court. You got an illegal spy warrant from this federal court. You spied on then presidential candidate Donald Trump. You continued to spy on Donald Trump when he was the president of the United States. You used his own FBI and his own CIA and other intel agencies to hobble his presidency. I remember when I went to the Senate Judiciary Committee at the beginning of his administration in 2017, and everyone was running around, including Senate Republicans, saying that Trump is a Russian asset because of this Russian collusion hoax. They destroyed his many parts of his first term. Now, it was still wildly successful because Trump is such a strong leader, but look what we're seeing now compared to his first term. And look at how much he's accomplishing now compared to his first term. That's what they were trying to prevent in his first term. His monumental accomplishments over the last 6 months, they tried to hobble the first time. And you talk about the statute of limitations, Ben. Generally, the statute of limitations for federal felonies is 5 years. So you say, oh, this was 2016, we're well beyond the statute of limitations. Guess what? You're not, because this is an ongoing the conspiracy. The ends of the conspiracy have to end. They haven't. They are covering up the conspiracy. They are perjuring themselves. We saw perjury by high-ranking Obama officials during this ongoing criminal conspiracy. I think it was in 2022. So we're well within the statute of limitations. And I would say to these Biden Democrats, justice is coming. I would be very, very scared if I were you. I don't think we'll put you in Mike Davis's gulag. The Viceroy's gulag, as we joke, as we troll, but justice is definitely coming, and I think the Bureau of Prisons will have plenty of space for these people.
Yeah. So,
insurance companies don't want you to know this. Homeowners, if your insurance rates keep going up like mine, then you need
space for these people.
So, very interesting because you have a shining record on this program of telling us what's going to happen in the future. You did this with Letitia James and with Fani Willis, and it was a masterclass, Mike. It just rang like a bell. And people mocked you, and they laughed at you, and they memed you for saying that at the height of what seemed to be their engorged power, that Letitia James and Fani Willis, that it would snap back on them. And lo and behold, both of them are facing now their own federal charges and or their own prosecutions inside of the House or investigations inside of the House of Representatives. So Mike has a gleaming record on this. Talk us through what happens next. And if you don't mind, could you narrow it down to Comey, Clapper, Brennan, and Barack Obama? Will Barack Obama be able to claim presidential immunity on this? Can you claim presidential immunity if you're committing a crime?
He might be able to claim presidential immunity for his actions while he was the president of the United States, and they'll have to litigate that, right? It's unclear whether he'll ultimately get presidential immunity for this, but I'll tell you this, it's an ongoing criminal conspiracy, and presidential immunity covers his actions while he's the president of the United States. They don't cover his actions when he's the former president of the United States, and when he's participating in the cover-up of this conspiracy, then he doesn't have presidential immunity.
It's a major question that everybody is asking, and I'm getting some major pushback here from some of the usual suspects, saying nothing will ever happen, Mike. No one will ever go to jail. It's just show. It's just the sparkler show, and it's poof, it's gone. Like it's not real ammunition. What do you say to that? And what do you say to the haters online that says nothing will ever come of this?
I think these haters online need to learn how to win instead of just crying and losing children. So we don't lose at the Article 3 project. We proved that over the last 3 years when the Democrats and most Republicans left President Trump dead on the side of the road, a dead political body. We went and picked him up from the side of the road and triaged him and made sure that he was back in the White House. And we're going to make damn sure at the Article 3 project very publicly, very loudly, that there is accountability for this unprecedented Republic-ending lawfare against President Trump. His top aides like Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro, who went to prison, his supporters on January 6th, who were politically persecuted. These Democrats even went after parents for being outraged by gender chaos in schools and the resulting rapes in bathrooms. They went after elderly pro-life Christians for praying at abortion clinics. The Trump 47 Justice Department, led by Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, and FBI Director Kash Patel, and Civil Rights Head Harmeet Dillon, and Solicitor General John Sauer, and so many others, Dan Bongino, the Deputy FBI Director. The president has assembled an all-star team at the Justice Department, and they are working big wins on the board for things that matter, like 15 of the last 17 cases that they've brought before the Supreme Court. They've won on the emergency docket. I'm going to make damn sure it happens because I am loud, I am vocal, and I am not going away. And I'm not like a cat. I'm not going to sneak up on you and jump on your face while you're sleeping. I am Cujo. I am a dog. I am barking down the street. I have been barking down the street for 3 years. And before I maul you and rip your face off to these Democrats, you know I'm coming.
So what does that look like? We've watched President Trump get arrested. We've watched President Trump be brought in for mugshots. Will we actually see a President Obama, a James Clapper, a James Comey, a John Brennan mugshot?
Nobody is above the law. And right. If there is evidence that any of these people committed a crime, they will face accountability. They will face severe legal, political, and financial consequences. They try to bankrupt President Trump for non-fraud. They try to throw him in prison for life 4 times for non-crimes. They try to unconstitutionally throw him off the ballots. And Joe Biden tried to get President Trump killed twice. And I don't say that lightly, but Joe Biden intentionally underfunded Trump's Secret Service. President Trump was the gravest threat to American democracy, and Joe Biden actually used the word he did that. President Trump almost had his head blown off twice, one time by a millimeter and a millisecond. Saved by the grace of God, President Trump is on a mission to save America from these evil Democrat Marxists who are subversive and who are trying to destroy our country from within. And it starts with their Trojan horse leader, Barack Obama.
Your charger is damaging your phone. Here's how to fix it. This groundbreaking charger is taking the tech.
Starts with their Trojan horse leader, Barack Obama.
I couldn't believe the language that Tulsi was using, Mike. You always have this mealy mouth, limp wrist, limp dick language from Republicans, like we really hope that there's accountability, and this is better for we need to restore norms, right? So another Republican administration would say it's about norms, okay? Like it's about the dignity of the office. Tulsi's straight out saying it's a seditious conspiracy. That's what Stephen Miller said. Tulsi said it's traitorous activities. Now, these are legal words. How do you charge seditious conspiracy? How do you charge treason, Mike? Can you educate me?
Yeah, treason's where you lead a revolt against the government of your country. You're trying to take down the foreign actors under our constitutional treason statute. But you may have that here. You may have that with the Steele dossier, because you had the Democrats with the Steele dossier working with foreign governments. This is why I think they did it. Hillary Clinton had her illegal home server as the Secretary of State, not only with our nation's most classified secrets, which is espionage. Maybe there's some Benghazi material that led to someone's death, like the ambassador's death. Maybe someone hacked that, and that's how this ambassador was able to get killed. But separate from that, it had the Clinton Foundation pay-for-play foreign bribery schemes. The Clinton Foundation is taking millions and millions of dollars from shady foreign actors. What was Hillary Clinton doing in her official capacity as the Secretary of State to take this money to the Clinton Foundation to underfund their lavish lifestyle, their private jets and their glamorous travel and glitzy lifestyle? What was she doing? We'll never know, because when she got subpoenaed, she destroyed her server with BleachBit, her home server in her closet. She took a hammer to her phones, clear obstruction of justice, clear conspiracy. Yeah. Of course, nothing happens to her because she's a Clinton. But guess what? Maybe, just maybe, our worst enemies like China and Russia hacked that server, and maybe they had a copy of it. Maybe Russia was going to put out a copy of Hillary's corruption before the 2016, and her campaign had to make up the Russian collusion hoax. So if this came out before the 2016 election, Hillary can say, you can't believe this stuff. This is a campaign dirty trick by President Trump. He's working with the Russians to interfere in our election. Don't believe any of this material. And you say that sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, Mike. How can you possibly think that? They did the same thing in 2020 with Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. They had 51 former intel officials working with the CIA, putting out BS that Hunter Biden's laptop of the Biden family corruption had all the hallmarks of a Russian disinformation campaign. You can't believe it. And not only did they do that, they censored the New York Post, America's oldest newspaper. They colluded with big tech, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple to deplatform the New York Post, take the story. You couldn't even get the New York Post story on the internet, and they censored everyone on big tech platforms who tried to share the story. They deplatformed them. They covered that up. And we know that if the American people in 2020 had known about this laptop from hell with this Biden family corruption, there's no chance Joe Biden would have been able to rig and steal the election. Trump would have won by a landslide, right? And so then President Trump was going to declassify Crossfire Hurricane. He fought the deep state for 4 years to declassify, right? And his own political people at the Justice Department, at the FBI, Rick Grinnell and Kash Patel went over to the DNI and unclogged the drain of the swamp for the intel community and got Crossfire Hurricane almost there. And then John Radcliffe, who became the DNI and is now the CIA director in Trump's second term, is the one who got Crossfire Hurricane declassified into Trump. But guess what? They never released it. Trump declassified it the day before he left office. The FBI, the DOJ ran to him and said, you can't release this publicly. It violates the Federal Privacy Act, which is a crime. You have to do a Privacy Act review. Well, guess what? They didn't do the Privacy Act review. They did the Mar-a-Lago raid. And then when they didn't get Crossfire Hurricane in Mar-a-Lago, that's when they worked with Tish James and Fani Willis and Alvin Bragg and all these Democrats to try to bankrupt, throw in prison, take off the ballot, and kill President Trump. It comes down to Crossfire Hurricane. This is all going to come out as part of this Crossfire Hurricane investigation by Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and the rest of the all-stars in the Trump 47 Justice Department. This is a
buttering. Oh boy, come on.
If you have pink salt, apple cider vinegar, and baking soda in your kitchen and you're not using this recipe, you're missing out on an effortless way to lose.
Yeah.
The rest of the all-stars in the Trump 47 Justice Department. This is a real crime by real criminals, and there's going to be accountability. And if it leads to President Trump himself, good luck, Barry. You might find yourself on the other side of a mugshot, and if you're continuing this criminal conspiracy, you might end up in federal prison.
So you're saying that this all boils back to Hillary Clinton's server?
Yes.
And the crime there, and the cover-up of that crime. Same people as Clapper, Brennan, Comey.
Yep. And they used all these bogus crimes that they say crimes. It's not a crime to object to a presidential election, right? That's protected by the Electoral Count Act of 1887. Is protected by the First Amendment. Everything they say President Trump did, they are doing. They are gaslighting the American people. This is what the Democrat Party does. Today's Democrats are not liberals who love America. They're not our parents' or grandparents' Democrat Party. They don't just disagree with us on the best way to get there. Today's Democrats are largely Marxist. They hate America. They hate free speech. They believe in censorship. They hate equality. They believe in equity. They hate due process and equal protection of the law. They believe in a politicized and weaponized justice system. And as I always say, we cannot reason with these people. We need to destroy them. They only respect power. They only respect the sword, like their Marxist Islamist foot soldiers who they imported to destroy this country. We need to destroy these people. And that starts with this conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. We need to investigate them, and we need to put them in prison.
That's the playbook, Mike. That was my final question. My final question to you was, how do you make it stick? How would Mike Davis charge this? So you would use conspiracy against rights. That's what you would lead with?
Yes.
Would you include treason, seditious conspiracy? Is there anything else that I'm missing here? I guess maybe, since that was my last question, here it is, open floor. What else is the American public missing here? You've been waiting for this moment, Mike, because you've been explaining this, everything from the Mar-a-Lago raid all the way through to Hillary Clinton's server and Trump's indictments. You've been tying it all together for a very long time. What is everyone missing here when it comes to these charges? What will happen next?
The cleanest charge you can bring is conspiracy against rights under 18 U.S.C. Section 241. This is an ongoing criminal conspiracy. There's no statute of limitation problem. It is clear cut. This is one of the charges that President Trump, that Jack Smith brought against President Trump in the D.C. indictment with D.C. Obama Judge Tanya Chutkan, this radical lunatic Marxist who Obama put on the court. This another DEI Marxist who they pretend they put on the court because of diversity, but in reality she's a subversive Marxist. They brought this against President Trump for the non-crime of objecting to a presidential. Obama, Biden, Hillary, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Big Tish, Big Fanny, Alvin Bragg, all of every one of these players, that goofy woman attorney general out in Arizona who charged Trump supporters, I forgot her name, Chris Mays or whatever the hell her name is, Andrew Weissman, he would love being in prison if you just watch him on MSNBC. We can give him martinis every night and he can be the prison bitch. So there is no shortage. And I did that for Media Matters because I didn't think I was being inflammatory enough. So I wanted to throw that martini comment about Andrew Weissman and the prison bitch for Media Matters. And
Molotov cocktail thrown, Mike.
Yes. We are. I would say to these people who pushed Norm Eisen. How did I forget Norm Eisen? There are so many bad actors who allegedly or could have participated in this ongoing criminal conspiracy against rights. Lisa Monaco, how did I leave out Lisa Monaco? She's like, she was the deputy attorney general. There was the DNI for Obama. I can't remember her name. Some DEI woman who should not have been in that job. Alvin, or it's like a diversity clown car. They pretend like they care about diversity. They pretend like they want women and minorities in these jobs, and then they rabidly go after every Republican woman and minority, like Judge Cannon and so many others. What they want are radical Marxists hiding under the guise of being a woman or minority, so you can't attack them because then you're racist and sexist and transphobe and homophobe. I would say this DEI clown car needs to go to prison.
Well, here we go. The president posted it, Mike, and we know that you're very, very close with this Justice Department and that you're just one of the soundest advisors.
Oh, I left off Ben Rhodes. How could I have? And Valerie Jarrett, Susan Rice, Samantha Power. I got Clapper and Comey and Barry Obama. But yeah, I mean, I think that shady bunch, instead of having 8 people on there, I think there are probably 80 or more.
Mike, Godspeed, man. I just can't wait to clip up this segment, baby, and put it on.
Did I bring the heat today, Ben? I started off a little bit docile, but I turned it up for you.
It is what we call berserker mode for Mike Davis. And if you wish to...
One last one. I would say to Barack Hussein Obama, lawyer up, buddy, because your conspiracy after you left the White House could land you in prison.
Yep. We're waiting, Mike. We're waiting for those days, and we're ready to rock. And we're ready with Mike Davis, who has been telling you what was about to happen for years. He's been right. I posted it this weekend. I just said, man, I'm glad I listened to Mike Davis. It's just one of those guys who comes on and tells you the future. And so you should be very berserker mode every day in your timeline. Go follow Mike. He's got nearly 500,000 followers right here on X. And you should support the Article 3 Project. Here's their website right now. Article 3 Project brings brass knuckles to fight leftist lawfare. Well, ain't that the truth? Mike, Godspeed, man.
Thank you.
This pissed off a lot of Americans. Let me tell you why. Did you know that if you're an American and you're at least 50 years old...
Ain't that the truth? Mike, Godspeed, man.
Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have a feeling that's going to make a little bit of news. It's incredible doing it's fun doing the show because we have been doing the show for long enough now. It's still a relatively young show. The show's only 3 years old. But we've been doing this stream for long enough now that we've had this incredible phalanx of guests and this real depth to what we've been able to discuss on the program. And you've been able to see who's a fraud. You've been able to see who's a liar. You've been able to see who's weak. You've been able to see who refuses to fight. And you can tell, like, instantly, as soon as they get on. You know, so from question number one, you can tell from the get, right? If they're ready to actually join the fight and win, or if they're just going to back down and whimper.
Yeah, like a coward.
And we're done with that. We're done with the low testosterone. We're done with the people who aren't willing to play by the tactics that have been forced upon us, and it's warfare, and so you have to play by tactics to win. It is war. Someone's going to win. And being put in a place they don't want to be. That's the nature of war. So Mike Davis brings that. And the best part about Mike's hits on this program is that they have just aged like a fine wine. Ladies and gentlemen, something that will age very, very well in your portfolio is gold. Advantage Gold is the company that I use in order to secure physical gold and silver in my portfolio. I just diversify a bit. All right? A bit. But it's up to you. It's your own choice. But listen, man, I don't gotta put up the charts, the tickers, to show you how gold is performing right now. It's just been incredible, ladies and gentlemen, and well, there's a lot of reasons for it. But most importantly, I want you to have security. I want this audience to be secure in the information that we're stating, and to be secure also in their financial future. I want this audience to be rock solid, ladies and gentlemen. The U.S. dollar's dominance is under attack. There's a lot of forces around the world that are chipping away at it. Gold, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I think the dollar should be backed by gold again. What do I know, right? I'm not in charge. Why is gold becoming the number one hedge against the global currency shift? Ladies and gentlemen, you can find out. Contact Gold today. You can move your IRA or 401k into physical gold, tax and penalty free. You can get up to $10,000 in free silver and gold with a qualifying account. Text Benny to 85545. That's Benny to 85545, or go to AdvantageGold.com. AdvantageGold.com today. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's definitely the F-aroundest of times and the find-outingest of times, as we have pieced through, as we will be piecing through with more experts on the show. Just a reminder that Julie Kelly, General Flynn, impeachments brought because of this hoax.
Yep.
Just a reminder that the president believes Mike Davis. The president is ready to act. President posting on social media, I agree with Anna Paulina Luna, who has been saying, listen, we're done with a bunch of talk and no action from Republicans.
That's right.
Nothing changes until this happens. This is the actual meme. President Trump also on social media yesterday posting an AI of, well, we have the mugshots we already popped that up. But then President Trump posting an AI that was quite remarkable. Barack Obama talking about how nobody is above the law, along with, of course, a chorus of Democrats saying the same thing. And then this little video takes a pretty drastic turn. Get ready. Here we go.
The future of MAGA is here. For Giotto Blow. Trump is your president. 2024, we coming back. Joe Biden in the crowd taking naps. And his son Hunter doing crack. Call me what you want, but don't call me a Democrat. Man, even if he's innocent, I'll write you in. Y'all need to dead. I'm still coming through your hood in my red head. I might buy a MAGA chain, let me call my jeweler. I'm exposing all these rhinos like I'm Laura Loomer. We still don't have the manifesto from the trans shooter. Your girl like AOC, I want a girl like Brad Cooper. Woo!
The president posted it. So who am I? Who am I to doubt? When Mike Davis is on here telling us that this is about to happen, and Donald Trump's on here, well, he is technically the top law enforcement official in the country, right? It's not actually the Attorney General. Who has the power to fire the Attorney General? The President. The President's the top law enforcement official in the country. Saying that Barack Obama is in real trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, before we get to our next guest, I just want to get very quickly here to Tulsi Gabbard explaining her work. It's valuable because we know Tulsi. She's been a guest on the show. She's been a guest on the show a lot. We've spoken at events with her. We traveled with her. She's amazing. And she's great. I didn't know this was coming. I didn't know this was happening. I am blown away by the quality of this work. And Tulsi's been doing some strategic media hits to explain her work. And I think it's really important for her to lay out the findings here before we get to our next guest, who had to defend us.
Yep.
This seditious conspiracy. The president's lawyer will be joining us in just a moment. First, ladies and gentlemen, let Tulsi explain.
Did you know your phone has a hidden setting that could help you tap into extra income? A setting that big tech companies design but hope you...
Gentlemen, let Tulsi explain.
Well, this is the thing, Maria, when you look at the assessments that were made, not just by one element of the national intelligence. I oversee 18 different intelligence community elements. And in the months leading up to the November 2016 election, the intelligence community agreed that there was no intelligence that reflected that Russia was trying to hack the election in favor of either candidate. The evidence showed, the intelligence showed that, again, Russia did not have either the intent nor the capability to be able to impact the outcome of the United States election. So it was very striking when we look back again at the documents that I declassified and released that shows there was a shift in early December, the first week of December, again, another document was produced by the intelligence community, a president's daily brief that was consistent with every other assessment that was done previously leading up to the election. Russia did not, this is after the election now, did not attempt to affect the outcome of the American election. That was never published. Hours before it would have gone into President Obama's President's Daily Brief, it was pulled by a senior level intelligence official saying that they had. The very next day, this meeting was called, a National Security Council meeting, bring together all of the senior leaders of President Obama's cabinet, and the topic that was put forward was a sensitive matter. The tasks that came out of that meeting was coming from President Obama directing Director Clapper to produce a document, to produce an intelligence assessment that detailed not if, but how Moscow affected the outcome of the election that had already occurred, electing Donald Trump to the presidency. This document that they published in January of 2017 was the foundational groundwork that they continued to reference over and over and over again to enact this years-long coup against President Trump.
You can't come out and say these kind of things as Director of National Intelligence without the goods. And they have so much more than they're letting on to. Now, I have been aghast and thrilled and delighted by the declassification. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen the deep state tell on itself. I've never seen the deep state expose its own crimes. It's a remarkable thing, and we're not done yet. One final Tulsi clip, the whistleblower clip. We've got to play it. Tulsi says, you think this is good. So we've covered everything up till now. You think this is good. Wait till you see what happens next, Tulsi just said. Tulsi says, no. The intelligence community is enraged by this. People know that they may be charged, in fact, if they were part of this conspiracy. And so now, rats fleeing the ship, whistleblowers coming forward, and Tulsi says, the best, ladies and gentlemen, just wait. Watch this.
Yeah. And do you believe that we will see prosecutions? I mean, our audience wants to know where this story goes from here. Will we ever see anyone held accountable for this incredible lie on the American people?
I will do all that I can, and we have whistleblowers, actually, Maria, coming forward now after we release these documents, because there are people who were around, who were working within the intelligence community at this time, who were so disgusted by what happened. We're starting to see some of them come out of the woodwork here because they, too, like you and I and the American people, want to see justice delivered. So we're going to provide everything that we have, everything that we will continue to gather to the Department of Justice for that direct intent and that direct purpose. There must be indictments, those responsible, no matter how powerful they are and were at that time, no matter who was involved in creating this treasonous conspiracy against the American people, they all must be held accountable.
So do you expect, just to be clear, do you expect indictments and prosecutions?
I'm not a lawyer. In my view, we have the evidence to be able to move forward and bring about justice, yes, to prosecute and indict those responsible.
More about the teeth of this seditious conspiracy than any man alive. Someone who was Trump's personal impeachment lawyer, who's a spectacular attorney, and who has, well, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of gunpowder in his gut, as my grandfather would say, to be able to stand up before the Senate and defend President Trump at the height of this insanity. Ladies and gentlemen, a man you should deeply respect, David Schoen, joins the show live now.
Do not let them increase your home insurance rates. I used to feel powerless watching my premiums.
David, welcome to the program. It's an honor to have you.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much.
Please, if you would, given your experience, and we have some old B-roll here of you on Fox defending the president from these malicious lies against him that he's a Russian asset, it ended up getting Donald Trump impeached in part, and it led to what I would say the theft of so much of the energy and good inertia that every president should start their administration with. But you're the subject matter expert, so the floor is yours. What's your take on these, the declassification of these documents from Tulsi Gabbard?
Well, the declassification is key, but I hate to say this, but I'm not terribly surprised by the underlying information. It wasn't coincidental that Donald Trump was indicted multiple times during the same period of time, none of which had any merit, in my view, whatsoever. So they tried with the impeachment, and they simply couldn't succeed. They lied, frankly, during the impeachment trial on a number of occasions, which was inappropriate. You know, this is a very important process, constitutional process, for this country, and it was just absurd. You know, it got to the point where one of the House managers during the impeachment trial said, "Can you imagine any American suggesting that the election was stolen?" And so I played a clip in my reply to that saying, you know what, we don't have to imagine any longer. And I played a clip of that senator saying the only way Stacey Abrams lost the election in Georgia is if the election were stolen. The hypocrisy that's attended the attacks on President Trump over and over and over again is just outrageous. But look, it's not surprising because we know some of the figures behind it. Andrew Weissman, for example, who Mueller somehow made his top lieutenant in that Mueller, whatever you want to call it, misguided at best commission. The idea of making this is the single most ethically bankrupt prosecutor I have ever had a case against, and I've had a long-standing case against him in which he put forward false evidence. He covered up evidence. He covered up evidence that someone else committed a crime for the people, not the people he was prosecuting, and so on. So you've got tremendous forces that were marshaled against President Trump. The idea was to paralyze the administration. Notwithstanding all of that, as I've said to President Trump, one of the most outstanding features of the administration is that even with all of those attacks going on, trying to paralyze his administration, look at all of the initiatives that he passed, and you can count them, one after another. Unfortunately, it was cut short, but he has an opportunity now to reinitiate those things and more.
Could you please explain for us and perhaps elucidate seditious conspiracy is what Stephen Miller, he's the deputy chief of staff, I'm sure you know him, called this. Tulsi Gabbard has called it a treasonous conspiracy. To us, these seems like very legally charged words, and perhaps you could break them down for us.
Right. Well, there are both statutes and, constitutional principles that attend them. But in essence, it's simply sort of, I suppose, how it sounds or how people might imagine it in their minds. That is someone working actively to undermine the government of this country, perhaps in coordination with a foreign government, but perhaps not, simply to, in this case, undermine the results of an election for their own purposes. And the conspiracy, of course, is an agreement between two or more people. We had a problem with this statute early in the previous century. It was construed too broadly, and people who spoke out, just against the government, which is one of our primary principles, a principle that you fight for. That is the right to free speech, whatever one's position is. This goes well beyond this. This goes to engaging machinations of government to undermine the results of an election. That's something that cannot be tolerated in this case. Just to the same degree, by the way, I don't know, same degree. Similarly, what we see going on around college campuses now and supposedly, defended in the name of free speech, it's not free speech when it devolves into violence and attacks and threats and intimidation. And so here, when we have people operating the highest levels of government in the intelligence agencies, in which their work is shrouded in secrecy by necessity, but here they apparently took advantage of that shrouding in secrecy to try to get away with things, to try to get away with what's been described as an attempted coup.
Yes, is that how you would bring this case? I'm not sure if you've been asked. I know you have an impeccable relationship with the president, but how would you charge this case given the evidence that Tulsi Gabbard says there are more whistleblowers as well, sir?
I think that's right. I think there are obstruction of justice charges that could be brought based on, limited information we have here. But if it appears, as Director Gabbard,
if you've been diagnosed with kidney cancer, liver cancer, testicular cancer, or ulcerative colitis, stop scrolling right now. You may be owed significant financial compensation.
Wait, are you saying these diseases are linked to PFAS?
Yes. PFAS chemicals have been in your drinking water for years, and studies now show a direct link to these diseases.
And people are already getting compensated?
Thousands have filed claims and are waiting for their results. But most people don't even know they qualify.
So how do they check?
Click below now. It's 100% free, takes just 30 seconds, and there's no obligation. But time is running out. Claims are being filed fast.
If you or a loved one has kidney cancer, liver cancer, testicular cancer, or ulcerative colitis, don't wait. Click the button below to check your eligibility. This could be life-changing.
See this tax deed house here? It's located at 822 Commercial and was acquired for only $1,500 total purchase price. Here it is on Zillow. Here's the actual recorded deed to the property, validating the purchase price. According to Quantarium Analytics, it's worth approximately $93,000. So even if they sold this property for 50% of the value, that's over a $40,000 net profit. Think about it. How long and how hard do you have to work right now to make $40,000? And I know it can look too good to be true, so here's the replay. I showed you a picture of the property, then you saw it on Zillow. Then you saw the recorded deed to the property, the legal document of ownership. Then you saw the estimated value by Quantarium, a highly credible analytics company. Then you saw the profit potential, even if you sold that house at a ridiculously low price. I'm Tony Martinez, founder and CEO of the U.S. Taxing Association. And we have over 33 years of verifiable expert experience helping our clients do deals just like that. We actually have over 2,500 recorded deeds of transactions just like that, proving our expertise. They sit right here in my office for anyone to see. If you're ready to take control of your own finances, just like that, for only $1,000 to $20,000 total purchase price, and you want to learn from true experts who prove. I'm giving you instant free access to my new online tax deed property crash course. It's the ultimate beginner's guide to getting started right, especially if you're starting with limited capital. Just click the link. You'll start learning right now, right from the comfort of your home and without some high-pressure sales pitch. So click the link, and I'll see you on the inside.
be more, then I think you've got real, it borders on treason, if not crosses the border. Wow. If what was going on here was really trying to overthrow the results of an election based on false and contrived information. Those are very serious charges. We can't levy them yet until we see the evidence.
Yes. Sir, we have here a document. I want to put it up on screen. This has been released by the Director of National Intelligence. It's the President's Daily Brief, and we don't pretend to be the world's experts on them, but we know that they are highly classified and that they are directed by the intel services in order to ensure that our Commander-in-Chief has the best information possible. This President's Daily Brief was, according to Tulsi Gabbard and the receipts on the screen right now, manipulated by President Obama in order to show something false, in order to create this conspiracy theory and to handicap President Trump on his way out. How would you charge that exactly, right? I mean, that is the weaponization, truly the weaponization of what seems to be the most sacred or sacrosanct organs of our intelligence services, and it's a grave crime.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, there are many broad weapons we could use to prosecute this case, and as I understood it, there's evidence now that behind the scenes, people even denied President Obama some of this evidence, but then they say that once he was aware of it, the case, we shouldn't be surprised about people like, I suppose, Brennan and Clapper. Never before have I seen, at least in my career, a history of top intelligence officials weighing in on political questions, signing on to political documents, and that sort of thing. That was outrageous, well beyond unseemly. But in this case, you literally could have crimes like civil rights violations, denying people the right to their vote, denying candidates the right to really stand for office. That, after all, was the goal here. But also things like this seditious conspiracy and other charges. Quite frankly, obstruction of justice certainly, but I think many other charges. And the obstruction of justice is a relatively broad statutory provision. It certainly would seem to encompass the conduct here. And I think maybe the most important thing of all of this.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who pay attention to every little detail. The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff. Because the tiniest thing can make the biggest difference when it comes to keeping business moving. We get it. We're the same way. Offering access to product experts to help you quickly and easily find what you need. So whatever your industry, you're always getting professional-grade products. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Is what you're doing, and that is publicizing this, bringing the facts to the public, so that people can be informed in their vote next time. Because after all, exercising the right to vote is among our most precious freedoms in this country, and it's a very serious process. We deserve to have all of the information when we exercise that vote.
David Schoen, very few people stood before the Democrats in the Senate and the House and represented and defended President Trump in what you might argue some of the darkest days of the first term of the administration. You certainly did that, and you were able to stare down this conspiracy. And we have the footage right here of it. Perhaps you could elucidate for us, what was this like? What enemy are we fighting here? What did you find out in this experience, David?
Well, it was a great honor, quite frankly. And I really just got to know President Trump about 2 weeks before this when he called to ask me to represent him. It was a major honor for me. After all, I was a solo practitioner. I think I sort of made a mistake at some point, because at some point during the course of the process, President Trump asked me to handle it all by myself, and I thought it was too big an undertaking. I'll tell you, a tremendous asset at the time was Judge Ken Starr. He showed great confidence in me and was very, very supportive of me when we spoke. I'd never met him before either, and he suggested, frankly, that I handle it on my own. In some ways, I wish I had, but in any event, the result turned out okay. But no, what we saw here was really the manufacturing of evidence. For example, on the first day, we were supposed to just be discussing jurisdiction. I felt very strongly from a constitutional perspective that you should. Impeachment is throwing someone out of office. He was already out of office. But more importantly, and maybe, I was dismayed by the complete lack of due process in this, what they call snap impeachment. One of the members of Congress, a Republican member of Congress who takes the rules quite seriously, spoke out during the discussion in the House before the articles of impeachment were returned. And he said, what are we doing? This is unprecedented. No hearing, no discussion, no anything before impeaching a president of the United States. And after all, the Chief Justice, should have presided if he were president, but here they manipulated even that. Chief Justice didn't want any part of that. And so they had Senator Leahy come on. The second time I was shocked. Senator Leahy seemed like a very fine sort of fellow, nice guy. But as I brought out in the thing, and, some people suggested I shouldn't have done this. I'm very glad that I did, because I think the integrity of the process demanded it. I said, Senator Leahy, how are we having you preside over these hearings, the impeachment of the United States president, when 3 weeks earlier you asked for his conviction and his impeachment, his conviction, and so on, and now you took an oath after that to be an impartial jurist presiding over it? That's outrageous. The American public shouldn't stand for that, and our constitutional process doesn't permit it. But anyway, it went forward, and in that regard, it was a bit of a farce. I wish we had gotten all of the votes to stop it before it started because of the lack of due process and the constitutional impediments to it, but we didn't. And so instead of discussing the legal issues, Jamie Raskin and company just showed videos of what happened on the chaos on January 6th and all of that for an emotional appeal.
So, given the fact that you've been in this unique position right now in my entire timeline, there is screeching, wailing, and shrieking from Andy Weissman and from others on the left, your friend Andy Weissman.
Yeah.
And they're saying that, of course, you can't arrest a former president, and you can't prosecute a former president. Which is a wild thing to level against someone like a show like ours, or to somebody like you who had to do it in real life. What would be your retort to that?
Well, I suppose we might have believed that a couple of years ago, but what we saw happen to President Trump is so outrageous. Quite frankly, you spoke to me about representing him in each of these criminal cases and the civil case and all that. I would have been honored to do so, but I kind of wanted to put in my own team if I were to do it. But it's always an honor to represent him in any proceeding. And here especially, I suppose, because it went well beyond President Trump. It went to, as many have said, the weaponization of the criminal justice system. That's not in any way an overstatement of what happened here. Not only that, we saw a sort of shadow prosecution team. In each of the prosecutions, there was a shadow team operating behind the scenes in very different variables. Andrew Weissman, Norm Eisen, and other people creating these suggested indictments. The Justice Department under Mr. Garland is an acolyte of Andrew Weissman. Came up together many overlapping situations. The idea that these people were then promoting indictments that should be brought and making suggestions, you can be sure they brought them to the attention at the highest levels of the Justice Department. I've never seen that kind of vigilante prosecution team before.
Let's get fiscal. Lesson 1, savings strike. New to finances, learn to...
Kind of vigilante prosecution team before.
Well, your dear friend Andrew Weissman seems to be not be going on TV much to talk about this. He's chirping a little bit, but everyone's been dead silent. It's a remarkable thing, David, to have watched all the yapping has suddenly stopped. It's amazing. I watched all weekend and nothing on this.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
It's unfortunate they didn't take that position years ago, but it caused a heck of a lot of damage to this country, and the hypocrisy that we saw. And unfortunately, people buy it. If they read something in the media or at whatever station he's on, Andrew Weissman says, people who follow those stations buy it. I agreed to do a show on the station that Andrew Weissman appears on frequently, against my better judgment. I got that night about 50 death threats. So I spoke to them at the show and I said, I got about 50 death threats last night. That hasn't really happened. I've gotten plenty of death threats before, but not in this kind of volume. So they said, they're really sorry. It's the left and the right and so on. And so I got a call from a journalist, Pulitzer Prize winning journalist the following day saying, I saw you on the television last night on that station. I said, I wasn't on last night. I was on 2 nights ago. They chose to show an edited version, even worse, the following night. And now I got about 100 death threats. So people believe what they hear from these guys who are simply not telling the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to reinforce those who fight with us and for let's just call it truth, justice, and the American way, and a proper judicial system, please follow David Schoen. You can follow him here on X. He has 10,000 followers, and he is somebody who we very much look forward to having back on to explain the landscape here. And it's been really crystallizing for us, David. Thank you.
Well, you're doing a great service by bringing these facts out. I'll have to tell you that.
Godspeed, sir. Please come back soon.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, General Flynn is joining us from the airport. He's traveling right now, but he's this eager to get onto this program and to spike what may be a Moab, ladies and gentlemen. General Flynn. General, your name is mentioned in these documents. You've been on our program for years. You've been writing books. You've been crying out from the wilderness about what they did to you. What a remarkable moment. And the floor is yours. The landscape has been set. General, what do you...
I have made this recommendation that I think that all of these people that are involved, starting with Obama on down, they all ought to have their passports revoked. And people don't need to be checking private airplanes and private airfields for anybody trying to abscond the country and get the heck out of Dodge here. So that's number one. I do think that just as was done to President Trump when they raided his home at Mar-a-Lago, because they thought that there was, and they planted evidence there in that case. But I do think that what the DOJ should be considering, if not getting ready to conduct, is a raid of Barack Obama's home up there at Kalorama in Washington D.C., where he's been since he physically left the White House. He's been running the White House all during the Biden regime. And I do think that there's some other places that need to be raided where there are likely a lot of evidence, a lot of receipts, so to speak, in many of these people that are part of the Obama White House as well as the Biden White House. I mean, I just heard the great David Schoen talking about the former Deputy Attorney General of Monaco, who also was the Homeland Security Advisor to Barack Obama. So that's number one. Those are things that need to be considered right now. And I was ready to wake up this morning to hear about some of these raids that should have been going on. There should, as a minimum, be a task force assembled by of federal law enforcement authorities, as well as a assigned, dedicated, prosecutor at the DOJ level, at the Attorney General level, someone who is working directly for her and for the President of the United States. This has got to happen very quickly. Yes. The other thing that I want people to remind people to look back upon, because part of my problem was Mike Pence. Mike Pence, former Vice President Mike Pence, and a couple of questions that I asked you, I think, over the last couple of days, Benny, that we need to remind ourselves during those first 2 years of Trump 45, we had the Republican majority in the House, Speaker Ryan, and in the Senate, President McConnell, right? I mean, the President of the Senate. Mm-hmm. So those two also sat on what's called the Gang of Eight.
Insurance companies don't want you to know this. Homeowners, if your insurance rates keep going up like mine, then you need
the President of the Senate. Mm-hmm. So those two also sat on what's called the Gang of Eight, which is a group of 8 people inside of the Congress that get evidence on, get intelligence briefings on every single thing that's going on in the country. So my assumption at this point in time, I don't know for a fact, but I got to believe because what Devin Nunes did in the March-April timeframe of 2017 was he came forward to the White House and said, hey, this is all fake. This is all fake. And Devin was then sidelined by Speaker Ryan from the House Select Committee on Intelligence. He was the chairman at the time. So there's some GOP dirt here that has got to be looked at, because the American people had lost so much trust in all of the institutions of government. One of the things that Barack Obama did, he didn't just weaponize intelligence and weaponize the justice system. He weaponized the entirety of the government. And then he went in and weaponized elements of other institutions, like the education system in the country, like the healthcare system in the country. There's parts of our government that run those things, but then what they did was they just enabled all of these capabilities within our country to be weaponized, and he did it for 8 years. And as I said the other day in a post I put out, the deep state plan was really 8 years of Obama, 8 years of Hillary, and the strategy was if Hillary didn't win, as we know what Peter Strzok and his lover Lisa Page talked about when they talked about we have an insurance plan if he wins, right? Well, the insurance plan was kicked in, and Peter Strzok is part of this. And I venture to say that there's going to be some people inside that are going to be that they are going to feel the pressure of going to prison. And when they do, they'll start to they'll start to sing, like they say, right in the movies. They're going to sing. And so I do believe that we have two things here, two big lines. One is, of course, what Tulsi Gabbard just exposed to the world and to the American people, which is the greatest crime in the history of the United States of America. Absolutely the greatest crime. A crime so bad that the majority of Americans actually occur here in the United States of America by one president against another president. But that's in fact what we now are facing. Looking back, this other line is, what was the responsibilities of the GOP to do anything? A GOP, by the way, that was in the majority while President Trump was going through the initial stages and the selection of Mueller as an investigator to investigate this thing. You were just talking about Andrew Weissman, who everybody knows is somebody who cannot be trusted. This guy has ruined the justice system in America because of his own behavior from past cases that he was involved in. So this is by far the greatest crime committed in the history of the United States of America. Thank God, a former Democrat, now director of national intelligence, someone who saw the light, had the guts and the courage and the commitment to work really hard. And she took a bruising beating, Benny, as you know, in the media over the last 6 months. I mean, there was so much negativity about Tulsi Gabbard this and Tulsi Gabbard that. And what did Tulsi do? She quietly performed. And she has now exposed the greatest crime in the history of the United States of America. And now we've got to make this thing, we've got to make it right for the American people.
General, I know that you're at the airport, and I deeply appreciate your time on this program. And so hopefully we have time for a follow-up or two. This is James Comey saying that he put a mark on you and that he's planning on trying to corner you and to rip you away from President Trump and to destroy you at the National Security Council. He's also admitted to this on camera. There's a separate moment where James Comey was asked about this, and he said so. If we could just play it muted, but he basically, we don't have the time to play it. He basically says, yes, I attacked Flynn because there weren't enough protections of the new administration. I was taking advantage of a nascent Trump administration. Exactly. Now, what's your commentary on this now that it's all the guts have been ripped out and the black and white is out in the open?
Yeah, that man right there needs to go to prison. And there's a couple of others around him that were part of this coup, this attempted coup against the United States of America. We cannot have this happen in our country again. And the only way, Benny, the only way that we will not allow this to happen again for many, many years, maybe 100 years, is by holding these people accountable. And the guy that your audience is looking at right there.
This pissed off a lot of Americans. Let me tell you why. Did you know that if you're an American and you're at least 50 years
accountable, and the guy that your audience is looking at right there, they call him the Cardinal, James Comey, former director of the FBI, totally destroyed. Essentially the greatest crime in the history of the United States of America. So these people have got to be held to account. People are going to expect movement very quickly. Years worth of investigations. All the evidence is right there. And thank God for Tulsi Gabbard.
Final question, General. Since you're a military man, you rose to the highest conceivable ranks within the military and within the civilian structure in the White House. Your credentials are impeccable. When Stephen Miller calls this a seditious conspiracy, when Tulsi Gabbard calls it a traitorous act, treason against our country, those seem like legal terms, but also really military terms. And since Barack Obama was the commander-in-chief, what angle would it be to go at this from a military perspective? Perhaps you could explain, what does treason and seditious conspiracy mean from a military perspective? Would you advise them to go after them on those terms?
I would. I absolutely would. I would advise them to go after on those terms and make sure that they have them locked in tight in terms of the legalities. But what I want people to understand is, after World War II, we had the Nuremberg trials, and there was a lot of people that were found guilty, and because they stood at when they got on the stand, they said, well, I was just following orders. Well, Jim Clapper, John Brennan, Jim Comey, Susan Rice, Sally Yates, and many others, Lisa Monaco, many others, you're not going to get away with it. If Barack Obama directed you, and it appears that he did, this is very intentional. This 8 December 2016, that was not on my radar, Benny. So this is a new piece of evidence that Tulsi has exposed. That, to me, in addition to some of the other critical criminal evidence that has been discovered, I think that they're going to have to look at conspiracy, treason, traitorous activities by some of these people, and particularly starting at the very top, and that would be Barack Obama. They were ready to convict and throw Donald Trump in prison for the rest of his life, Benny. So all bets are off when it comes to immunity. There's no immunity for this president, not President Obama, for what he did. So,
could you have a military there? Could you have a military tribunal for the commander in chief?
I don't know, but I thought it'd be explored. It should be explored.
General Flynn, who has been so right on this, who has fought and actually General Flynn absorbed the first arrows in this attack, actually, and was the first victim, frankly, of all of this. And it must be a profound moment. Everyone follow General Flynn. I know he has a flight to catch, but any parting thoughts, and here, by the way, is pardon of innocence, if you wish to read the full story, but any parting thoughts, General?
Yeah, I think everybody just needs to stay focused, support President Trump, and we've got to make sure that we demand accountability from the government that is supposed to serve us, right? It doesn't serve itself, it serves us. So that's really where I'm at.
Yes. Godspeed, General, and we look forward to having you on regularly to talk through this with our audience.
Absolutely.
Godspeed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Benny.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are rocking and rolling. Don't you go anywhere. Julie Kelly is getting locked in to talk about the Obama sisters. Hey, let's make sure we grab that article from Julie's Substack. The Yaya sisters of Barack Obama. You want to talk about where the actual conspiracy begins? Julie Kelly is going to take you through some names you may or may not know who truly hatched and launched the actual hatchet team that did this. The ones who really put the bodies in the ground, who understand how the mechanisms of this were hatched. Julie Kelly is going to expose all of it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
I need more coffee this morning. I'm all out. I need more coffee in my mug. My blackout coffee went a little too fast. We had a delightful and excellent weekend, but there was a lot of news to break, and we've been working really hard, and I got to tell you, I probably needed another pot of coffee this morning. Go through about a pot of coffee a day. If you're going to drink a pot of coffee a day, it better be damn good coffee, and blackout coffee is great coffee. It's good coffee. It fills my cup, and it keeps the show powered and going. Ladies and gentlemen, blackout coffee is the American dream. Started in a garage. Now they have this massive facility. They employ Americans. They roast their coffee in-house. It's no grift. It's just excellent coffee, and it just keeps us powered because, well, we know that we're supporting the people who support us. You should try blackout coffee. I'm telling you, you won't ever go to another coffee brand ever again. If you believe in hard work and American values and coffee that powers this program, ladies and gentlemen, blackout coffee for you. blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Use the code Benny for 20% off your first order. Support the American dream and drink Blackout. That's blackoutcoffee.com/Benny. Stop settling. Drink real coffee. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have on someone who has been, again, calling in the wilderness about this issue when it was very lonely and when she was truly the only voice out there. In fact, she has the Substacks to prove it. Let's pop it on screen just very quickly here. The Obama-era sisters circle Trump. Would you look at that? Isn't it nice to be able to just stamp it? August 30th, 2022. Julie Kelly writing about the trio, Susan Rice, Avril Haines, and Lisa Monaco, and how they are in charge of targeting President Trump. And they have been for a very long time, since the true insurrection date, January 6th of 2017. We have the documents. Will the Yaya sisters here be going to prison? Julie Kelly joins us live to talk about it. Julie, welcome back to the program. Boy,
Illinois homeowners, I want to buy your house right now, as is, no matter what condition it's in. And not only do I want to buy your house, but I
gotta tell you, I don't know, between you and General Flynn and Mike Davis, who is the rightist on all of this, but all of you must be riding very high because your work has aged like fine wine.
Well, Benny, I mean, I take a back seat to people like Molly Hemingway and Sean Davis and Chuck Ross and others who really, helped blow the lid off of Russiagate early on. I did cover it as well. But I think what we're talking about, Benny, in terms of what is reported, a grand conspiracy investigation that dates back to now, we'll talk about these documents that Tulsi Gabbard released. What I wrote about in 2022 is how those same Russiagate perpetrators, Avril Haines, to work at the highest levels in Joe Biden's presidency. Avril Haines, who was at, all three of them were at that December 9th, 2016 just learned about on Friday. So all three of them, Avril Haines went on to be really Tulsi Gabbard's predecessor, Director of National Intelligence. Susan Rice was Domestic Policy Advisor. And Lisa Monaco, Deputy Attorney General, running the Department of Justice, basically with Merrick Garland as a figurehead. So I'm working on a piece on Lisa Monaco right now. Hopefully I'll be able to come on later in the week and talk about it. But this is the common thread between Russiagate all the way through the Biden presidency up until the end of 2024, when they were still trying to hang on to those two criminal indictments against the president and somehow managed to figure out a way to put him in jail throughout 2024.
So I want to just take a quick step back, and we were bothered by this question right at the top of the show. But you're the perfect person to ask it since you've been covering this so closely. John Durham. What the hell? Like, what happened with all of this evidence over the last 10 years? It's clearly been sitting there in a file drawer somewhere. It could have been found, seems like quite easily, because it's a very thorough report. You said, of course, Lisa Monaco, was there, not Lisa Monaco, sorry, Avril Haines was there in charge, the Director of National Intelligence. She clearly had all this evidence, right? Like, you understand the cover-up there. What the hell went on with John Durham?
Hey, Max,
it's hard to say, and I think that that's something that Congress really needs to look into, as they're, this multi-hydra-headed scandal, unprecedented scandal in American history. Where do you start, or where do you continue what has already been underway? But certainly, John Durham's report and other reports related to the scandal. Where were these documents that Tulsi Gabbard released? Where were these email exchanges? Why did we not even know about this December 9th meeting until Friday? In fact, I went to my top source, Lee Smith, on Friday, who has covered this, as you know, in 3 books, produced a movie about it. No one knows this, I think, better than Lee. And I said, did we know about this December 9th meeting before? And I covered it as well, not as in depth. And he said no. So that meeting of those Russiagate perpetrators, including President Obama, the Obama sisters, John Brennan, et cetera, Jim Comey, how did John Durham not know about that? So I think that that is something that we need to find out. But moving forward, Benny, then what does the Department of Justice do now?
Yes.
You had Tulsi Gabbard, as you know, and you've already talked about, calling this a treasonous conspiracy. You have CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and I know there are questions as to how he did not get his hands on these documents during the first Trump presidency. Nonetheless, sending criminal referral about John Brennan and Jim Comey related to that bogus intelligence community assessment that was the product of that. The DOJ, FBI, and Congress have a lot on their hands, but people want accountability, and it's hard to see at this point, Benny, where criminal charges are not brought against a few, if not many, of these Russiagate perpetrators.
We've gotten Mike Davis says conspiracy against rights. David Schoen is saying that, there are a slew of things that you could charge them with, but he's a civil rights lawyer and he took the civil rights tact that you're depriving the people, obviously, of their vote. And then General Flynn says, you put him in a military gulag and charge him with treason, right? And that's very General Flynn. Given the fact that you've seen...
If you have pink salt, apple cider vinegar, and baking soda in your kitchen and you're not using this recipe, you're missing out on an effortless way to lose weight. This is the last time I'm sharing it here. The truth is, if you've been using...
Given the fact that you've seen maybe all of those charges brought against President Trump by these people, what would you advise here as far as carving up this whale?
So I'm also working on a piece about this that I've got like 6 different articles working on, and you can imagine if you want to make them thorough, though, it takes some time. And I've actually been working on a seditious conspiracy article and how the DOJ might be able to apply. Now, keep in mind, this is a post-Civil War statute that the Biden DOJ dusted off to use against 24 J6ers, January 6 defendants, who were members or alleged members of the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys. Now, this statute, seditious conspiracy, traditionally has only been used against 1993 World Trade Center bombing. The DOJ brought seditious conspiracy charges against those individuals, fine. But the DOJ watered that down, egregiously watered it down, to bring this, and it is comparable to treason, against 24 J6 defendants, some of whom were not even in Washington, D.C., some of whom didn't even go inside the Capitol. Only one had some sort of weapon. And so if you can use that against people who committed no violence, who had no plan to overthrow the government, and using how the DOJ, the Biden DOJ, brought those charges, what they put in their indictments, and what the jury instructions were in all of those trials. There were 3 Oath Keeper trials, 1 Proud Boy trial. The jury instructions, it's hard to see how this Trump DOJ could not now pick that up where the Biden DOJ left off and use seditious conspiracy and draw this, pull this thread from the Obama White House all the way through to the Biden regime, and attempting to do the very same thing, which is to sabotage the president and, and set him up, if he did win, again, another illegitimate presidency. And that's what they were trying to create.
And they got convictions on those charges, Julie.
They did.
Seditious conspiracy. So the question, of course, in a moment like that is, did they have the power to overthrow the U.S. government? And of course, that's laughably no. Yet these people did have the power to overthrow the government. They used the most powerful intelligence community resources known to man, and they weaponized them against Donald Trump. Dick, Julie.
I think that it probably has. Now, Mike Davis, of course, I always defer to him as well. So conspiracy, one of the options on the table. But I know, speaking for a lot of J6ers, they would love to see seditious conspiracy thrown back. And this was also, I believe, if Donald Trump had lost the election, that Jack Smith would have brought seditious conspiracy charges in a superseding indictment against the president had he lost. I think that they were still holding that in their back pocket. I think you and I even talked about that in 2023 and 24, what they would do if Trump lost. So there is a little caveat in there in the seditious conspiracy by force. But again, and I'll explain this in my piece and come back on and explain it even further, they said physical force wasn't necessary, that any sort of force, that they planned to use force. Well, it doesn't have to be physical force. I mean, when you have the full force of the intelligence community, the White House, the Oval Office, the DOJ, the FBI, CIA, every single major, powerful, unaccountable government agency coming down on your head. How can you say that's by force? That's way worse than someone opening a door with Capitol Police standing right there, going into a government building on a Wednesday afternoon. So anyway, I'll be doing a statutes on the table for the Trump DOJ to consider.
Right here, Julie, is Stephen Miller, who is a friend of the Stephen Miller calling it a seditious conspiracy. And he's a very wise legal mind and the architect, of course, of so much of what's going on at the DOJ and Homeland Security and law enforcement in America. So he's using that terminology.
Mm-hmm.
He's preferring, he's leading with seditious conspiracy, is what it seems like Stephen Miller's leading with.
Yes. Well, I think, of course, he is correct. And it does. And if he's saying it, sort of signals to me and others that might be the statute that they are pursuing. And the great thing is that they've got recent history of how the Department of Justice and judges signed off on that. So you had 2 judges in Washington, D.C. who allowed that charge to go forward against J6ers. Trump appointee Tim Kelly, Obama appointee Amit Mehta. They were the ones who refused to dismiss that charge against J6ers, including, of course, nonviolent ones who were not in the Capitol that day, some who didn't even go inside the building. Enrique Tarrio was in a Baltimore hotel on January 6th, sentenced to 22 years in prison on a seditious conspiracy conviction. So, and the government, the Biden DOJ, again, comparing this to treason, adding terror enhancements to those sentences so they could throw people like Enrique Tarrio in jail for, most of his life. Now, of course, they're all released sentences. Some of them still have not been pardoned on the seditious conspiracy conviction. However, the Biden DOJ, so the Trump DOJ can consider how to apply that to some of these key perpetrators.
Seems like there's quite a bit of a roadmap that's being uncovered. Julie, would you mind if we did some breaking news that's right in your wheelhouse?
We do this all the time, Benny.
From Senator Grassley. Yeah, that's right. Wow, let's do a breaking news today. I mean, just in case. Yeah, here we go. Breaking news. Let's go.
Oh, come on. No
if you have a dog, you know they look at you with a special kind of trust. They trust you for their food, their safety, and their...
Senator Chuck Grassley, head of the Judiciary, says newly declassified documents show DOJ Inspector General concluded that Comey's run FBI failed to conduct a thorough and complete investigation into the Clinton email scandal. Well, would you look at that, Julie? His team ate up the Steele dossier lies and chased after Russian collusion hoax, but took kid gloves against Hillary Clinton. Now, David Schoen and Mike Davis were both on here saying a lot of this connects back to Hillary Clinton's illegal server. And so much of this was intended to cover all of that up. Your take, Julie?
I mean, I think that this is another important aspect. Going back to the timeline of July, so remember that press conference that Jim Comey gave, I believe it was July 5th of 2016, where he admitted that but that he said no, what did he say? No prosecutor would pursue charges against her, something along those lines.
No reasonable prosecutor.
Thank you. All right. So you're younger than I am. You can remember 9 years ago. I can't.
I couldn't remember John Durham's name earlier on the show. So I was like,
all right, good. I feel better. But then immediately after that, remember how WikiLeaks, the release of the emails off the DNC server. And that demonstrated how the DNC was helping Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. That resulted in the ouster of Debbie Wasserman Schultz as the DNC head. So the Democratic Party was really in disarray after this. And Hillary Clinton still under fire from media and others and being investigated, still under fire for this. So they needed something, right? So then the end of July 2016, Crossfire Hurricane opens for Trump aides, including General Flynn. So this was also a diversion away from that. So this is just another angle of things that we are going to be finding out. Now, what could possibly happen with that? I don't know. We're running up, this is 9 years ago. So it's going to be tougher to prosecute someone like Jim Comey because there's no common thread. He wasn't in the Biden administration against President Trump and his allies. That's not the case with Lisa Monaco, Avril Haines, Susan Rice, and others. So I'm not... What kind of action can be taken after that?
Mike said that it was because the conspiracy is ongoing, it never ended, and the statute of limitation ends when the conspiracy ends. And they've never admitted this, and they've never been punished for it, so that's what Mike says. Anyway, we'll leave it to smarter minds, but this is one that I really got to ask. And something that, of course, really popped off in my timeline. According to these files, there's no credible evidence that Russia ever hacked the DNC. No. Julie, you were just talking about it. So, well, what does that lead us to? What assumptions then must we take? Because the official line has been that the DNC was hacked by Russia, and then they manipulated all the emails in order to insert creepy stuff in there, spirit cooking dinners and so on, right? None of it's real. It's all fake. Don't even talk about it, right? But it seems like the intelligence community is saying, no. Russia never hacked the DNC, so we're left to simply assume that, what, Julie?
Well, that's a big question. There's some speculation as to how those emails were obtained and released. But I will say we've known plenty of reporting on this, including myself. Sean Henry, who is the CEO of CrowdStrike, who was hired by Fusion GPS, I believe, or the DNC to look into that hack. So then they came out with this report. Yes, it does have fingerprints of Russian intelligence. I think one of them was Guccifer. That was the name, Guccifer 2.0. He's tied to the GRU, the Russian military, and so he's the one who got it. But then Sean Henry later, when he had to give testimony to Congress, admitted that they never even saw the devices. They never saw the email server. They had no hard copies of anything. So CrowdStrike also complicit in this lie that the Russians hacked the DNC email system. So this just confirms it once again. So who did? So how did the emails, who obtained them, how were they released? And this represents another cover-up of this massive scandal.
I mean, you simply left to assume that all of it's been a lie and that they're 100% authentic, and I think most people in this audience already...
Have you heard? Reading glasses are outdated. A new technology for the elderly. Nothingness is here. From now on, you...
And I think most people in this audience already believe that, but then if that's the case, then there's a lot of questions that are going to be asked of Hillary Clinton. Now, there's reports that Hillary Clinton and her team were aggressively pushing Barack Obama to launch Russiagate. We'll wait to see those documents. Perhaps that's what Tulsi Gabbard is telling us is going to be dropping soon. We're not sure. But Tulsi, but also that there's a lot more to come. And at what point do you begin to pull the threads back to Hillary Clinton? Could she potentially be culpable in any of this?
I doubt it. I mean, let's cut to the chase. No one's going to indict Hillary Clinton. No one's going to indict Barack Obama. So we can, I think, disabuse ourselves of that vision or that.
Really? You don't think Obama either?
No. And of course, you got the issue with Barack Obama. What would you charge him with? We have the immunity ruling from the Supreme Court really a year ago that carves out only specific instances where a president in office could be held criminally liable. And I'm sure that Barack Obama, if anything came down, would be smart enough and his lawyers would figure that out. So no, but look, I really want to see the henchmen like Lisa Monaco. And I know I keep going back to her, but look, she also ran the Biden DOJ. So she was the one that really ran the first two investigations into the president for classified documents and for January 6th. She, I'm sure, worked with special counsel Jack Smith, was involved in his appointment, people from the DOJ. This Chuck Grassley just last week, I believe, the last several days, releasing emails showing how Tom Wyndham, another prosecutor who went to the DC U.S. Attorney's Office, which was in constant contact with the DOJ, I'm told, specifically Lisa Monaco's office, how he was pushing top down the FBI to open this January 6th investigation into the president, which of course they did. So I'm looking for a lot more records related to that as well. And so those are the people who I think are the most likely to be held responsible, criminally liable, and the ones who should be.
You posted about, in the final question here, you posted about the whistleblowers that Tulsi Gabbard is talking about. Right now, you've done a ton of reporting, obviously, on the intel community. What do you think could potentially be unveiled? Where do you think this is going to go next, Julie, given your deep and rich experience in these kind of conspiracies and knowledge of some of the key players? What do you think the whistleblowers will say? What do you think is going to happen next?
Well, there is a whistleblower cited in the documents that Tulsi Gabbard released on Friday. So I would assume more will step forward, and even perhaps whistleblowers who during the Trump presidency, because of course he took office in late January 2017, who are still fighting the deep state intelligence types. And remember even the Ukrainian gate, the quid pro quo, the into the Biden family corruption, which we now know exists as well. So there could be some sort of nexus to that also. So because everything is so connected and because there's so many bad actors and still are in the federal government, even more so during Trump's first term, I would assume that you'll have whistleblowers discussing not just this, but other intended sabotage operations against the sitting president during his first term.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to find out about what is happening now, you can go back and read Julie Kelly's Substack. Here's the article, by the way, that I would point you to. The DOJ...
Oh, that's the DOJ one. That's an
no.
Whistleblower. That's a fake whistleblower.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Obama-era sisters circle. They circle Trump. Yes, it's always been the same one. That's Samantha Power, man. Creepy little video of her in Hungary, head of U.S.A. It's amazing. She was the head of U.S.A. and she's like, I can't wait to engage with partners here in Hungary to try and topple the governments here. It's like, God, it's so dirty, so filthy. And Julie Kelly's been calling them out for years. So please subscribe to her Substack. Yeah. And then subscribe to Julie Kelly here, who is just a few short of 1 million subs on X. Ladies and gentlemen, the people who are fighting for us, fight with them. Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Benny.
If you're paying more than $42 a month for home insurance, you're getting ripped off. Here's how to fix it. I didn't know I was...
Boy, look at that. Senate Judiciary. Right here, newly declassified DOJ watchdog report shows FBI cut corners in Clinton email investigation.
Oh, really?
Well, would you look at that? The timing here has been utterly impeccable. It's just been wild to watch the rollout. It's like the team is just hitting on all cylinders, and they're coming at them from all fronts, and it's a multi-pronged attack, and it's devastating. It's been devastating. Somebody who will be joining us, I believe tomorrow, is the great Anna Paulina Luna, who has a government weaponization committee that she's in charge of, who she tells me is working. She's working overtime on this, and she is going to be leading the congressional assault against this conspiracy and coup. Annapolina Luna on TV just this weekend explaining how many years in prison those who are prosecuted for false intelligence reports will send. This is an interesting tactic that hasn't been discussed on this show. Well, what happens to you next? Here we go.
You saw with the report that Tulsi put out, I mean, we're talking about there needs to be criminal prosecution and arrest, lying under oath, putting out a false intelligence report. That's a violation of 18 U.S. Code 1001 that comes with a 7-year prison sentence and up to $250,000 fine. But we're talking about something more nefarious than this. I think that this is a perfect example and reason why there needs to be FISA reform as well. As you know, Maria, that false intelligence report resulted in FISA courts issuing a warrant to illegally surveillance the president of the United States now. And what I can tell you is if we don't stop this, if we don't actually say this will not be tolerated, this is not a Democrat or Republican thing. This is about the health and the sanctity of a constitutional republic. And so there needs to be arrests. This is not partisan. This is simply illegal what they did, and we're simply upholding the law.
Lucky for us, the banality of evil will cut in our direction here. Banality of evil. Evil is very haughty, it's very prideful, it's very boastful. And these criminals have been boasting for a long time. Yeah. James Clapper on CNN, laughing his ass off in 2019, thinking that they, planning the next coup against Donald Trump, openly admitting that it was Barack Obama who hatched all of this and who brought this fake intelligence report to bear by ordering him to do this. This is a remarkable clip. It'll show you what perhaps will be litigated in court soon. Let's go.
And certainly those of us and I are part of the group that were tasked by President Obama to put together all the reporting we had on the Russian interference. And which we did. President Obama directly and personally confronted Putin about the Russian interference in September and did not accept at face value Putin's protestations. John Brennan directly did the same thing with his counterpart. On October 7th of 16, we put out a statement. I say we, Jay Johnson, then Secretary of Homeland Security, and I put out a statement, pretty forthright one, about warning of the Russian interference in our election. This was a month before the election, which unfortunately got drowned out by the Access Hollywood tape revelation. On December 29th, the administration, issued a series of sanctions. PNG, 35 Russian operatives, closed 2 dachas, etc. And then, of course, on January 6th, we issued our intelligence community assessment documenting the Russian interference, in which we had very high confidence in the evidence that we presented to then President-elect Trump at Trump Tower.
Oh, okay. So Obama directed you to do it. Got it. Well, good. I very much look forward to you explaining that as a witness in a court of law. Julie Kelly saying Barack Obama will not be prosecuted. Well, I don't know. I guess President Trump disagrees. President Trump's the one posting the AIs of Joe Biden. Well, Joe Biden should certainly be part of it, but the AIs of Barack Obama getting thrown in prison. And here's the other little thing that I think is very important in all of this. They've confessed already.
Yep.
The documents are helpful. A Department of Justice from the Trump administration. Prosecutions must be a must happen. I cannot emphasize enough. Must happen. The full faith and credit of the American people are at stake right now. If they are able to get away with this, then people will truly blackpill. They cannot get away with it. My timeline is a constant stream of people blackpilling, big creators coming after me and coming after this account.
This pissed off a lot of Americans. Let me tell you why. Did you know that if you're an American and you're at least 50 years old, you could be eligible for this 25...
Big creators coming after me and coming after this account and coming after this channel and saying nothing will ever happen. Okay, well, it's up to us, isn't it? Throw haymakers, we can fight, and we can present to you clips like this that they wish were long forgotten. I didn't have time to play it with General Flynn, but I'll play it for you now. Yep. Listen to James Comey admitting that the reason why he targeted Flynn and the reason why he targeted Trump was because they were a nascent and young administration, and he knew that he could commit crimes against them. Watch.
In those administrations, there was process, and so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals, and who would be there. And I thought, it's early enough, let's just send a couple guys over. And so we placed a call to Flynn, said, hey, we're sending a couple guys over. Hope you'll talk to them. He said, sure. Nobody else was there. They interviewed him in a conference room at the White House Situation Room, and he lied to them. And that's what he's now pled guilty to.
What did he think they were coming over there for?
I don't think he knew. No, we didn't tell him.
We didn't tell him. We lied, and we went around the White House counsel, which they did. Yep. We took advantage of a brand new administration. We destroyed the man who we knew was the enemy of Barack Obama and understood the way the deep state engaged, understood where all the skeletons were and buried. That was the power of General Flynn, was he was the only person in Trump's orbit who had risen to the highest ranks of the military and truly understood the nature of the beast here. They attacked him, specifically targeted him, and broke every rule and violated every code of conduct. It was patently evil. General Flynn is our friend, and we were delighted to see perhaps some justice here in our lifetime. So we should be praying for that. Evil, evil regime. Just one final thing. Let's read the full Stephen Miller tweet, because I think he just absolutely encapsulated it perfectly. Yeah, full Stephen Miller tweet. Stephen Miller has commented on this a single time, and he said this: a seditious conspiracy to overthrow the government of the democracy of the United States. There is nothing that the deep state will not do to perpetuate its power over the people. Right here. Thank you very much. The next one, thank you. Correction, ladies and gentlemen. This is the a little more muscular tweet from Stephen Miller. Tulsi Gabbard has exposed a startling depths of a seditious coup against the Republic. The forces behind this coup have done and what they will do to protect their grasp on illegal and illegitimate power. Do not underestimate their capacities or depravities. We are stronger. We are stronger because we have truth and light on our side. And we don't need to understand everything right now. What we do need to do is continue the fight. Ladies and gentlemen, we do that through locking in with the truth from Hebrews. To please him, meaning God. He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. It has been the effort of this show to diligently seek on these issues and to seek out truth, to push and to muscle and to endeavor these results. Why? Pretty easy for me. Save our country. Click the pinned tweet on my profile, please. Save our country. For whom exactly shall we save our country? Well, for these little kids, right? You've already won. Something that we say. Nike had a viral ad this week with Scotty Schiffer, I think is his name. He's a golfer. Apparently a very good one. I don't watch golf, nor do I follow sports at all, but anyway, it was him with his children. So here's me with my kids. The Student Action Summit last weekend. You've already won. What do we always say about these things? Well, we say it every single show. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, in the end, we win. And this is how you do it. And this is what I'm protecting.
God always wins.
This is what I'm fighting for. This is what I wish to leave. This will be my legacy. To save this nation for my children. That's why I'm fighting. And remember, in the end we win. There's boy Benny. See ya.
Sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade with the warrior's heart. This man never fades. You know it's prime time when Betty invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Betty shows the storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Betty Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Betty Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light, bringing liberty. Liberty to life, from the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade, cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade with the warrior's heart. This man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny shows the storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night.
Alright guys, we're gonna end the live stream because I have to go and we got a car show tonight, yo. We gotta go into these lift cars tonight and go ahead and enjoy, watch you take each other and show the cars up. I know lift cars don't like cars, but guess what? God bless y'all, because I gotta start driving. We're almost there. I was already close by, so